you think about?
Do it.
We are now going to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home.
Which means, real quick, that we're going to talk about Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home,
Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage.
Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, potentially a little bit of Hawkeye. So, you know, if you haven't seen the movie, go to the theater, see the movie.
It's
Here, real quick.
It's Marvel
did everybody
spoiler
love
time.
the movie?
Yes.
Great. Go see the movie.
Go see the movie.
Spoiler time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes. So this is the like 20 whatever movie of the MCU.
30-second.
30-second. Wow. So yeah, full spoilers from here on out. If you have not seen the movie, go see it.
Wait, what? 30 seconds?
I just made a number.
Okay.
I wouldn't know. I would know.
I was gonna say I think it's like 27, 28.
if I prepared this. Full spoilers. You've been warned. Look, we're gonna be talking about a lot of stuff. So, what do we think about this movie? Ryan,
I think it's great.
Ben,
Absolutely loved it. Sorry, a cat just decided to climb over me and her claw got on my arm. Ow.
Sparks.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I need to see it again.
This is probably one of my favorite MCU movies.
Yeah.
It's definitely up there.
Yeah, I've seen it twice. I had to see it twice because I needed to confirm what I felt about it. And this movie is a triumph, guys. I think this movie really rules in pretty much from start to finish. And I've just remembered the last year of us, the roller coaster of feeling how we feel about it, like super anti it, and then getting closer to release. And now that it's here, like I think it's one of the best Spider-Man movies. I think it's one of the best MCU movies. It's so good.
I expected from everything I heard, I was like, oh, this is just gonna be a mess. It'll be a fun mess.
Yeah.
It'll be a mess. This is one of the most well-balanced, well-paced. I have been hesitating a lot because much like Ryan, I think this movie rules, and I don't think I have anything bad to say about it.
The only negative things I could have are like COVID restriction things that like limit actors being on set, which you can kind of notice. That doesn't like ruin the movie for me whatsoever. It's a reality of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I was so worried about this movie going in, and like all of our bingo cards are thankfully not as big as the movie was. This movie is so self-contained for being as big as it is, guys. I'm so impressed. And my biggest thing about it, like all these MCU movies have big giant third acts that don't connect with me. Like Shang-Chi's finale really did not work for me. What's the final battle of this movie? It's a personal battle between a hero and a villain. I couldn't tell you how thrilled I was that was the finality of this movie. I think it works on every level. The fan service is fantastic. I think the script's really great. I just want to gush for an hour if that's okay.
Before we get further into it, do we want to do our bingo cards?
I mean, I thought we were each going to do like our. We kind of did. So yeah, we should do our bingo cards.
All
Yeah.
right. Do we want to just say what
Did
we all
anybody
got?
get bingo?
No.
Guys,
Okay, no.
I had more than half correct, and I still didn't get a bingo.
Yeah, because they just weren't in the right spot. I
Yeah.
would have gotten a bingo if they were in the right spots.
Yeah. I got 13. I farted there. 13 of 25.
I went wild. I said things I didn't think would be in this movie, nor did I necessarily want them in this movie. I just went buck wild to fill in squares.
After Endgame, I reeled it back for sure.
All right. So I think I'll just say what I got.
Sure.
The squares that I got. So Tom Hardy Venom.
Yeah.
I had that as well.
Charlie Cox is Matt Murdock.
Yep.
For whatever reason, I wanted to be specific and just be like, it's Matt Murdock.
I made it separate and two separate ones. So I had one that said Daredevil suited up,
Cover
and
your
I
bases,
did not
love it.
get it.
Everyone forgets that he's Spider-Man at the end.
Yep, I did that too.
Doc Ock helps.
But you didn't get that one.
Yes, I did.
Oh well, because everyone forgets he's Spider-Man, right? Okay.
That's it.
Doc Ock helps Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay. Great power, great responsibility. Green Line remix line from the first movie. Science line. Daredevil. Ned does something important. The spell works. People forget who he is. Organic web shooter joke. Venom. Uncle Ben mentioned. Someone else says MJ. Toby, Andy. New spider outfit. Science and magic save the day.
Nice.
I love how some of you drew things, especially Ted Raimi.
Yeah. I had a 10 Raimi cameo, but that's honestly probably safe for the Sam Raimi movie.
Go ahead, Ben.
Matt Murdock. What web shooters? Like the whole organic web shooter thing. MCU MJ forgets Peter Spider-Man.
Yep.
Garfield saves MCU MJ.
I was surprised to see that one on there. Good job.
Yeah, I was actually.
That was like a no-brainer.
Well, the second one at the trailer was like, oh yeah, he's got to do it because if Garfield's there, Doc Ock becomes good again.
Yep.
And some villains live.
Yeah, some villains live. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, like the only one I did not give myself because I also put Scorpion gets the suit We see the Scorpion in the
Whoa,
multiverse
that's
thing.
not the same.
Exactly.
See,
Yeah.
I lucked out. I wrote Scorpion is at least seen or mentioned, and he is seen.
So you also have one. You also have one that I have been that we didn't get, which is Toby says, "With great power comes great
Yeah.
responsibility."
Yeah. I was gonna say.
Should have just said with great power comes great
Yeah, we should have.
responsibility.
Yeah, because he finishes the line, but he doesn't tell Peter with great power comes great responsibility. So
I know the line.
I got a bit about Toby's organic webbing.
Mhm.
I got Norman deceiving Peter.
Mhm.
I got Tom Hardy as Venom. Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. Doc Ock versus Norman Osborn. That happened for a moment.
That did
that did.
happen.
I'll count it. That happened.
I got. Man, I got so little. I got. That's it. Oh nope, Reese Ifans in human form.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, I put
Oh,
put no Reese Ifans voice only. And I was like, oh
I
shit.
got his human form appearance.
The whole time I was watching the thing, I was like, don't do it. Don't show us the whole thing.
Ah,
Don't
yeah.
show us the whole
Ah,
thing.
yeah.
Shit, I
Thomas
I got
Hayden-
way less than I thought.
Thomas Hayden Church too. The whole movie he was CGI, and then he just shows up that
So,
last bit. I'm like, what the hell?
Bring
Bringing
it
up-
real quick. From your bingo cards, any of your your favorite didn't happen or bullshit ones?
Oh,
that
that's
you
a good
said?
question.
Oh yeah, bullshit was.
Because I'll go. This was one of my favorites. Joe Manganiello appearing as Agent Venom.
I love that. I love that
I didn't.
so
I didn't
much.
want it. I didn't expect it, but I thought it
So
was.
this
cool.
was the first bingo card, the one I wrote down. I wrote Happy gets together or marries Aunt May.
Oh,
I have that
And
too.
the first
I have
5
that
minutes
too.
of the movie, they break up.
I have that too.
I was so sad.
I put the bullshit one I put was Spider-Man meme IRL where they're all pointing at each other.
They kind of do that. They
but
kind of do that, not perfectly.
It happens kind of in the school scene where it's like Peter Parker and they're all pointing.
I
at each other,
I
but
kind
yeah.
of allow
it was a small reference to it.
yeah, but it was gonna be all three Spider-Man in their suits pointing at each other. But
yeah.
another way out of left field was Madam Web.
I could have
Oh,
seen.
jeez.
I
I
Yeah.
could have seen a world
that's
where Madam
something.
Web showed up.
She shows up at the end for a second. I could have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Oh, hey, Mag's in the chat.
Oh, hey, Mag.
Hope you
I
saw
think-
Spider-Man.
I think my biggest one that I blundered was I thought Doctor Strange would get trapped in the multiverse.
I
at the end of the
also
movie.
wrote someone gets lost in another dimension.
Yeah.
And that didn't really happen.
Oh, you
My,
know,
my pipe dream was that he was going to get trapped and it was going to be in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man universe.
We had a whole conversation.
know what this-
about
Oh
that.
wait, I
Yeah.
may have got another one.
Hmm.
I wrote Scarlet Witch post credits.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
she's in.
no, yeah,
no, yeah.
I'll allow it.
Because
It doesn't give me a bingo.
no, because like we're doing Venom was a post credit and we all got that too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I was just saying because it's not about her. It's the trailer for.
Nah,
Doctor
she
Strange
shows up
Multiverse.
all
Yeah,
out.
well,
Yeah.
first, because my Venom one was Venom. Tom Hardy actually meets Spider-Man
Yeah.
in person. Instead, he's just at
If
a
he
bar.
hadn't been sitting on his ass at a bar for 6 months,
Listen, he's
getting
so
drunk.
curious about the.
he
what's-
could have made it.
Tell me about the
It
stones.
hadn't been 6 months.
Yeah, it had.
man,
No,
Yeah, from May to December.
they don't do the spell in May.
Hey, what I get, so this isn't
Oh,
gonna
you're
give me
right.
a bingo, but I also put continuation of other films, like the other Spider-Man. Will say
No,
like,
that's I count that.
you'll count that?
absolutely.
Okay, so
I count that.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Well, I'm asking the panel. Would you guys count that? Because both.
Wait, does it give you a bingo?
no, it doesn't give me.
Then
a
yes,
bingo.
you can have that.
Again, I got more than half, and I didn't get a bingo.
Yeah, because
You'll win nothing.
Because what I meant by
You'll lose.
continuation is that they say is like, oh yeah, me and MJ are like, because he says that him and MJ or Toby says him and Peter says him and MJ made it work.
There are
And,
they
and-
continue threads, like even if the microscopic, like
See,
they
where-
talk
where-
about stuff.
Where I failed was I said both that I would have liked to have seen a post credit scene from Andrew and Toby.
yeah.
And so like that's similar to what you're saying, but I went too specific with it, so I didn't get that.
I would have
square.
got bingo if Mysterio was alive or Happy and May got together.
Oh,
I
Otherwise-
don't think I get bingo.
I would have got bingo if Fisk Tower had showed up.
Oh yeah, I wrote Avengers Tower
Lord.
stuff. Yeah,
I put Wilson.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland messed me up.
I put Wilson Fisk bought Avengers Tower.
Yeah, that counts.
Like he buys it. So
Well,
I
we
bought
don't
it.
know.
Not yet.
Anyway, that's our bingos.
Hell yeah.
we
It's
lost.
time. It's time to talk about the movie.
Let me let me tell you, I truly love this movie because again, I thought we were getting an Endgame. I thought we were gonna get a Gwen Stacy, a Mary Jane. I thought there was gonna be cameo after cameo, and I am so thrilled that this movie is not that. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how happy I am. This is the most Spider-Man of the MCU movies. Like, this might be my favorite Spider-Man movie. Like, that's why I saw it twice to confirm it. Because like the stuff that this feels like such a comic book movie.
Mhm.
Like, and I love Spider-Man
It's
2.
definitely my favorite of the John Watts films.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I love Spider-Man 2, but I'm thinking of like the real Spider-Man stuff that happens. I'm like, that stuff also happens in this movie for me.
I keep trying to tell myself, or not trying to tell myself, because I only saw this the one time with you.
It just came out. I get it.
Yeah, it just came out, but I want to see this again.
Ben, how dare you?
Shut up. I want to see this again so bad.
I'm desperate to see it.
Me
again.
too.
And I am just like itching to go see it again. And even then, because like this might be my favorite Spider-Man movie, tied with Into the Spider-Verse.
I put that in another league because it's so good and it's animated.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, a favorite live action as of right now, this takes the cake. I love Spider-Man 2. I've always loved Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
This one is just so damn good
Because like for me, like it gives me like all like the like obviously not as much, but it gives me the good Raimi stuff, but also having a good Spider-Man that's fully formed.
What's so shocking to me about this movie?
The shocker.
He's not in this one.
Oh.
What's so shocking to me about this one is that like, I feel like everything that wasn't getting the attention it deserved in the first two of the MCU Spider-Man films gets better story arcs, gets more emotional play. I'm speaking specifically of like AMA.
Yeah.
And so like you have you do that better in this one, and you also carry on these threads of things that you have not needed to before. This film juggles so much, but always keeps it grounded to the emotional core. And I'm shocked at how well balanced this movie is.
Yeah, I saw it again because like I felt like this movie's like about almost 2.5 hours long. Like it's pretty long.
Yeah.
And it flew by. So when I saw it a second time, I was like, do I feel the length at all? No. This movie is so tight. It is so packed, but it moves at a clip. It's incredible.
There are times where, like, I remember earlier this year when we were talking about No Time to Die, where I told you guys I felt the length of this movie.
Plenty of time.
I felt
So much time.
as like that movie was long. With No Way Home, I was so engaged. I was so ready. I feel like nothing was wasted in this movie.
Yeah.
Every new scene, even if it didn't involve Holland or Spider-Man or anything, just I was so ready to see what was going to happen. The scene when Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire show up, I loved it.
Oh, of course.
Sparks, you haven't said much.
Well, I mean, you guys were talking. I was just like, I agree.
Go
Like,
for
I
it.
was just listening. I kind of wanted to see, like, I think the best way, the easiest way to navigate this is what I think I want to do is I want to talk about everything before the spell. And then I want to talk about the villains and the spell and all that, and then talk about like everything else that came after that. Because I think that you really do see like a clear Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
Yeah.
But that helps. And I think the Act 1 of this film about just the ramifications of what happened with Mysterio is really well done.
It starts so fun.
It doesn't lose sight of its audience, and it's like it's doing complicated bad things that don't make you feel like shit the whole time.
Yeah.
Which I think is really good.
And Matt Murdock's in that scene.
It's wild that you get to the end of this movie and you have to go, right, Matt Murdock was in this movie.
He's in the first like 10 minutes. of the
Charlie
movie.
Charlie Cox has returned officially as Daredevil.
I feel like we knew what was happening, but the second we see the cane, I go over to Ryan and I start shaking. I'm like,
Kevin
"It's
Feige
Daredevil!"
should not have
When
said that until after the
when
movie
that
came out.
when that photo leaked, I was like, that's a real photo.
Yeah.
That is
I
a
didn't-
real photo.
I am so glad I didn't see that photo because
I
had
didn't
no
care.
idea.
I didn't care. I was
I
like,
was-
I'm ready. Like, show me the photo of
The
Matt in
way-
the movie,
the
and I
way
was like,
they, like-
baby, that's him.
The
That's
way
him
they
for
do
sure.
the fan service in this film is I think all the fan service is really well executed in this film.
Yeah.
One specific bit is when Matt Murdock is introduced, and you just see
The cane, and then it turns and it's him, and it's
and you're
they
like,
knew.
oh, they knew what we wanted.
He walked right in off the set of Daredevil. He's got the same. He's right back in
he
got
character.
mannerisms.
He
Yeah.
moved right back into that role.
He did, and of course,
When he catches
and
the brick, I'm a very good lawyer.
I just the second we see Matt Murdock, I'm like, this movie is already so okay. So before we see Matt Murdock, I love it when we actually see the ramifications and the immediate reaction to when we have big cliffhangers, i.e., Far From Home, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. What the fuck? Beep. That
Yeah,
whole
I
bit.
think that also it's really fun watching the montage of all those events, because the first like 20 minutes of this movie are like 4 months or something. It's a long time.
You're getting like the immediate moment where
Mhm.
they're getting back to the apartment and all that. I think all that is very good. It's
Yeah.
got it's got a smooth energy.
you
It's
kind
gotta-
of get a progression of like J. Jonah Jameson's
There's-
career is
yeah.
getting bigger each time we see
There's
him.
there's a one shot that lasts like 3 minutes before you meet Matt Murdock. That's just like Peter closing all the windows, having a conversation. That's like, are you guys having protective sex? Like,
Right.
it's all in one shot. And I'm like, man, it's just they're like so good.
Yeah, and the
so
camera's
good.
like shaking because like all the chaos there.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, I really what was it? Sorry, I was trying to. I forgot. It's gone.
I do like the way that we get like the fallout with the school, the classmates. We got Betty Brant reporting for the Daily Bugle about Peter.
What's his
we have
name?
Liz Allen talking about him on the news, on newspapers.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Calling him a liar.
What's his name? The coach.
Yeah,
Mysterio
the
is
coach.
right.
The coach, like just full conspiracy theorists
Hannibal
hating
Buress,
him.
Yeah.
Like that was
He's
uncomfortable.
like,
Yeah.
I know, like the two teachers who made a shrine to him, and then the coach is like, "I know what you did.
Well,
Hero's right."
Well, because it's like he clears like he might like. Now I don't think he likes superheroes because he's like, well, Captain America's a war
It's-
criminal, and like, well, you're Spider-Man, you murder dudes, get out of my
It's
class.
so wild to see the scene where he goes to them with the MIT letter,
Mhm.
and he just swings down to the donut shop in his regular street
Yeah,
clothes. And
'Cause
you're
why
like,
does he
oh, this
need
is
to?
weird. No, right?
Yeah,
It makes
yeah.
sense, but it's like it's so weird to watch.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this feels weird.
Yeah.
There's so much of this film that like the opening minutes of this movie are just really solid storytelling. I was like I felt that we were moving months into like we were progressing in, as far as like months go, but I never felt like so I was kind of go back to like Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action film. There's a sequence where they're in the Southern Water Tribe or the Northern Water Tribe, and they skip a couple of weeks. And you don't feel that they've skipped a couple of weeks. It definitely feels like it's just the next scene, like
Mhm.
the next like
the
hour,
next day.
the next day. But I felt like they've been progressing in that time,
Sure.
almost as if it was happening real time.
Yeah.
I love how every time Aunt May comes to the apartment, to Happy's new apartment with a letter from a college, and it's just like, and Peter's either doing homework or also Dummy's there. I love that.
Dummy makes his triumphant return.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't die.
So this is why I kind of wanted to talk about Act 1, because we established like what the thematic core of is the film, and the reason I think the film succeeds so well is because it never loses sight of it, which is that we're talking about Peter like trying to get him and his friends into college and like moving on from high school. That's like the surface level conversation of it. But what the film is about that moment when your world will change because you
Yeah.
are now growing up. You
Yep.
are now about to metaphorically leave the world as you've known it before. The fear of keeping those you've cared about up to this point who have been your base close to you, that is so relatable to every single person in the world.
Yeah.
Bro, like how
that
many
sense of
high
growing
school
up,
kids are like, oh, we're all gonna go to college together. Like
That's-
oh, this will never change.
that
Yeah, yeah.
exact core concept is so relatable to everyone. That's why the film works, because it made a Spider-Man story that really is a Spider-Man story for everybody.
Mhm.
And that never goes away because that is the through line of what Peter's facing. He's facing that transition into the real world and into adulthood that he's never had to do before, that he's been so protected from, especially in the MCU.
He's always had a team with him.
right.
Yeah, it's the opposite of Spider-Man.
And
in a
this
cool way.
film takes away his entire. I didn't even think about that. Even within the MCU, it completely isolates Spider-Man
Right.
in a way that he hasn't been in the MCU before.
Like obviously this is like 6 hours away in our conversation, but like I love this ending so much. Like it is
I love
such
that
a
suit.
bittersweet.
Well,
like I can't believe they did
We'll definitely
that.
get into that, but like
Yeah.
that's why I think the movie works, is because you're heading to that point, and that point is all about like, up to now Peter's never had to make that kind of a decision before,
uncertainty.
and
yeah.
and Peter having to face that and go into it and be like, I'm gonna have to take on this sense of adult responsibility. The film never lets the audience lose sight of it, and that
It just gets
that
more and more
maintains-
intense about the responsibility he
Right.
has. Yeah.
And of course, when going to the scene where he sits down and all of his friends open their envelopes for MIT, and it revealed that because they know Peter Parker, they're not allowing them into school. It was definitely like it hit hard because all these kids, because like I love how Peter sees how he's hurting his own friends just because they know him as Spider-Man.
Mhm.
And now that this is all blown up, he's like, he finds a way to fix this. And also, jumping ahead a little bit, I kind of like how Doctor Strange is like, you mean you didn't call them first?
It's such a kid
And-
thing. Oh my
yeah.
god, I love it.
I mean, when you know of a wizard who can help do stuff with real magic, it's like I probably would forget to call too.
I think that I want to talk quickly about like Daredevil's appearance real quick.
Sure.
Because I really appreciate that for a lot of the dialogue in that montage is just the word lawyer. And so you're constantly being bombarded with like, they need a lawyer. What lawyer can they call? And
Mhm.
and sets it up so beautifully for him to walk in like, this lawyer,
Like
this
the-
lawyer,
like the
bitch.
second, like when the second he's arrested, and then they're like Aunt May and MJ are like, Peter, don't say anything without a lawyer.
I also love that he's only in the movie for like a minute and a half.
Yeah,
I absolutely adore
it was
that.
all you needed.
It's confined. Like I was worried he was going to show up as Daredevil and fight, and like this is let it be about Spider-Man. The cameos are not what's important. Let it be about Spider-Man, and I'm glad he's in and out because it feels special.
There's a moment in this movie where I could see that like, okay, Daredevil could pop in and be like, hey kid, buck up, and then bail, but like not exactly that. But I'm glad the restraint of like, I'm sure there is a version of the script that had Daredevil in it, but
I don't
the
want
idea
it.
to kind of keep going with like, this is going to be his first reappearance in the MCU. Like we're going to confirm that he's MCU canon,
Yeah.
so let's keep it tight.
Yeah.
Daredevil fans got to eat this week.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
So this might be more suited for final thoughts or later, but I don't care. This movie works so well because they still keep the focus on Holland,
Mhm.
on Peter Parker,
On Peter
Paul
One.
and Oates.
as Spider-Man, and like Brandon, what you said, like Daredevil's only in the movie for a minute, or Matt Murdock is only in the movie for a minute and a half.
He definitely said that.
So
And
I
it
want to
works so well.
I want to talk about something that Marc said, which was Daredevil fans got to eat this week. So you did mention we'll spoil a little bit about
Spoilers for Hawkeye. Skip ahead if you don't want any spoilers for Hawkeye.
For episode 4 of Hawkeye. There is a moment, and this is important to Spider-Man No Way Home.
Episode
I want to
5.
bring this episode 5. I want to bring this up for a reason. So Wilson Fisk, Kingpin,
Yep.
is in Hawkeye.
Yeah.
As we suspected would be the case, but it's no. Now I didn't realize.
Say uncle.
I didn't realize that Ralph Boner scarred me.
Mhm.
Like I didn't realize it at the time
They learned their lesson.
that the concept of Ralph Boner from WandaVision had really ruined my perspective of what I could see in the MCU. So I was watching Hawkeye and I saw a picture of a tall white bald man, and I was like, it could not be Vincent D'Onofrio.
but
Like,
then
I
he
kept-
says the word kingpin.
But and he says the word Kingpin. I was like, they could have cast someone else. Like I was still like, I was going like
and
they're
then you
that
go on
mean.
Twitter.
They're that mean. Like they'll do it. They're
Yeah.
that mean.
No.
Because Ralph Boner, and then I was kind of like, oh, I don't get my hopes up because of Ralph Boner, and then the credits have Vincent D'Onofrio, and it's like there was a spring on my seat
Mm.
because I jumped out of the I was like, oh my
Boing.
god.
Boing.
So like having that happen and then having the Daredevil thing happen, it completely like reprogrammed my brain of what I could be seeing in the MCU again. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
The moment episode 5 ended, I was like, so Charlie Cox is in that movie tomorrow.
No,
Again,
the
Ke-
second that episode ended, I'm like, if Charlie Cox isn't in the movie, I'm rioting.
Well, see, again, I think Kevin Feige should have not said, if we see Daredevil again, he'll be played by Charlie Cox. 'Cause
Yeah,
that just sets
seriously.
everyone up. Like, you could have said that after the movie, like, well, now you guys know he's always Daredevil. Like, that would have been. It's not like we didn't already know he was in the movie.
Also, I'm
You
just
know?
glad that Charlie Cox, because for a while after Daredevil season 3, Charlie Cox was like, man, I would love to go back to Daredevil. I love this role now. And now he is officially the MCU Daredevil.
Yeah.
So
Like-
before this, I wasn't willing to get my hype up due to like for Echo, because I was like, because the rumors are like it's going to be Daredevil season 4 essentially, and I'm like, they won't do that to us. They're too mean. Ralph Boner.
Yeah.
And now that this happened, I was like, that Echo show is going to be Daredevil season 4, baby.
Yeah. I think they learned their lesson.
Uh,
Hopefully.
So that is tip of the iceberg though for what we're heading into.
Yeah.
So let's before we go into the rest of that, I do want to bring up something that like I didn't think about it when I watched the movie, but I did think about it later. And it was funny because I was talking to people who haven't seen No Way Home yet. And they brought up Zendaya's performance as MJ
Mhm.
and like the vibe that she gives off.
Okay.
And her MJ in here is a great character. Definitely feels like a different character.
It's less
from the previous two
so
films.
she is definitely less of the like super. Well, also, so I see what you're saying.
She's a little closer to Far From Home, but yes, there is a
Yes.
difference between all three portrayals of this
I
character.
think
from her.
I definitely absolutely see what you're saying. I think now that she's become closer, because she was very standoffish in those other
Yes.
movies. Now that she's closer to them, she's more open and she's less antagonistic in her joking and stuff. So like I see just the progression of her being a more loving, open person.
That's I agree with that read. I do think that it's like a her opening up with Peter kind of thing.
Yeah.
The part where like the specific moment where it stood out to me, this is jumping ahead a little, but like when she's backsassing the villains. It doesn't have the same bite that MJ used to have. And this isn't a nitpick or a criticism. This is just an observation of like that character does feel like they've slightly been reinvented at this point from where we started. And that's fine. Also characters grow.
Yeah.
That's also fine.
They even included
it's just
the last name Watson.
It's just an interesting in observation.
I get that.
Because like especially having watched like Homecoming and Far From Home very recently, I was like, you now compared to Homecoming is like miles apart from each other as far as like what they were thinking. And like I don't think that they have this picture of who MJ is now when they were making the Homecoming character.
She's a glorified cameo in that first movie.
Yeah.
We definitely got confirmation that she is Mary Jane Watson. Well, not Mary Jane. Michelle Jones Watson.
She is a Watson.
She is the Mary Jane equivalent.
Yeah.
Dad's out of the picture.
Putting to rest that there could be a Mary Jane showing up.
You don't need it.
We don't need it. This is MJ.
Right. I thought that was a smart move to be like, no, this is MJ.
Yeah, I agree. Doctor Strange.
You see some bad Christmas ornaments.
Always forget how much I like Benedict Cumberbatch.
Halloween ornaments.
Bad
Dracula ornaments that he goes, Doctor Strange. Love that Doctor Strange theme. Thanks, Michael Giacchino.
I always forget how much I like Doctor Strange. Benedict Cumberbatch is Doctor Strange.
He's very good.
I really enjoy that performance. It feels like Ben, real quick. It feels like he like really enjoys being Doctor Strange. Like he has I don't think I see him have fun on screen a lot, and I get the feeling that he's having fun with Doctor Strange.
Well, he's generally a more dramatic actor. Like he's in like The Power of the Dog, which is like a super sad.
So I would imagine that being a character like Doctor Strange gives him an opportunity to just kind of have fun.
Yeah,
I think you can see that.
So what I was gonna say is, right before Ryan and I, because Ryan and I bought our tickets early, and we had like an hour and a half to kill before our movie started. So we were watching when the cast of Benedict Cumberbatch, Jacob, Tom, and Zendaya were on the Jimmy Kimmel show recently. I always forget that Benedict Cumberbatch is very British, because every time I see him,
I'll never forget.
He is doing his Doctor Strange because, not every time, but I know him best as his Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm. It definitely gets better. Like, to be fair, like to you, like his American accent does get better as he goes on.
Yeah.
But that first movie's a little rough.
If you have an ear for it, watch that first movie, and he's like articulating harder than he needs to, which is something British people often do.
So Tom Holland decides to be like, I'm gonna ask a wizard to erase everyone's minds,
and he wants to ask the Sorcerer Supreme, but Wong is busy.
Wong is Sorcerer Supreme.
Bro, what a throwaway, beautiful line.
I remember we were talking about like, what is Wong doing? Like we were flabbergasted at like Wong's place in the MCU at this point.
It makes sense now.
Makes sense. He's the Sorcerer Supreme.
That's what happens. As Doctor Strange got blipped, someone's got to do it, right?
Yeah.
So he becomes like, I love that. I also really like that they changed the line from Strange, don't cast that spell, to like, leave me out of this.
I don't want to be involved.
Leave me out of this.
And he's just going back and forth from Carmitage and just.
I do like Strange relating to Wong, and like we've used it for far less, and like
on you
hasn't he been through enough?
Yeah, like that goes to another thing like that. Doctor Strange cares about Peter.
Absolutely,
and I think that's very cute because he's like, I mean, he's been through enough, Wong, and like that Wong recognizes how much Doctor Strange cares for Peter and decides to be like, okay, well, don't leave.
And just in case it goes wrong, as it often does, I wasn't here. I didn't see it
until Multiverse of Madness when he has to deal.
Like, oh my god, what? You brought a giant octopus monster.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really like the interactions between. I think Tom Holland has a lot of great chemistry with a lot of the cast of the MCU.
Yeah.
And like Doctor Strange, like once again, Doctor Strange, and he played off really well.
Yeah.
I think this is
doing an American accent.
Holland's best time as Peter and Spider-Man. The emotions and like the fun, just like
I think
he is so into it in this movie.
I think it benefited from their time together on Infinity War. Like having those moments with each other allowed the relationship here to feel really good.
Also,
in a way that like the Fury and Peter interactions in Far From Home don't quite sing the same.
Yeah. In the same interview Ben and I watched, Cumberbatch and Holland did a separate movie that was in World War II together at the same time they shot Infinity War. So they spent an entire year together. So like those guys are homies. They're 20 years apart, but like they love each other. Like, and you could see it.
Oh,
like,
they did like when they were doing the press for Infinity War. Like they also had like really good chemistry. I'm sure that's like where a lot of the idea of like, okay, let's bring Doctor Strange in.
Yeah.
There's something that again I once again forgot. Okay, let's move on.
Let me talk like in terms of this being like an MCU movie, like it honestly does not feel like an MCU movie.
Doctor Strange is like the only thing that
Doctor Strange is the only
to it.
Yeah, this is like as far as I'm concerned, this is a like Spider-Man movie that just happens to have Doctor Strange in it. Like I don't feel
Oh.
the third act like I don't feel the Marvel-ness in it. You know what I mean?
I remembered. They was like ask Nick Fury. He was there, and it's the revelation that Nick Fury's been off world for over a
Yes.
year.
It's interesting that the damage control knows that. That's interesting that they would know that like the leader of Shield is off world.
Right. Well, I mean, he's just a dude at this point.
That's is he just he is?
because Shield's not around in the
But he's
MCU
like
right now.
on a sword station in like
Well, I
in
know,
charge
but
of
like
it.
that, I'm sure he was just like, okay, peace out, damage control. You got it from here.
Oh, okay, true.
Like
yeah,
I'm sure he could have done like
This
that.
is something I brought up with Ryan, where I'm like, it's a little weird that like, why would this dude at damage control know Fury's off world?
To be fair, like why with that dude? Yeah, that's weird.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact: that guy who plays Stewie on Succession, he's awesome. He plays a great asshole. That's the guy who was going to be the lead in the cancel damage control TV show. So they brought him back from that pilot to be
Well
in this
done.
movie.
That's
So that
done.
actor still won.
well
That's
done.
awesome.
I was always upset that damage control show.
That was the show
Yeah.
that should have came out. instead
Man,
of the other one.
like his interrogation with Ned, and he's talking to him, and he's saying, "Yeah, I'm basically like Peter's guy in the chair." He's like, "Wow, I did not know that.
I got guys in my
I
chair
got guys
too."
in my chair."
It's so good.
It's when he's just like, so what you're saying is you helped Spider-Man be an accomplice to like all these crimes. Like, I think I need to speak to a
So
lawyer.
that guy's so like slimy. He's so good
Just
at that
like
role.
really good. The second they got inside with Ned, it's like, oh, he's
so much.
Look, he's been waiting so long. You need a snack, buddy.
good
so
cop.
much,
It's like, oh, you're laying that thing. You're
Yeah.
laying the good cop on.
He's good at his
thick.
job.
It's
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole plate,
So much for
Yeah.
Edith
Yeah.
being in safe hands.
Oh God.
right?
It is cool.
Done now.
I bet this is set up for Armor Wars because all that Stark, lots of shit is happening at Stark where all of his stuff is getting maybe sold or taken. So I'm like,
Damage
ooh,
control, yeah.
setup,
I'm,
baby.
I'm interested in seeing what Armor Wars would do because Armor Wars is gonna be like. I wonder if we'll get Gwyneth Paltrow
I wouldn't be
Except
shocked
for
if there's at
Armor
least
Wars.
I would
a
think
cameo.
we should
because
So-
theoretically she's still CEO.
You
of
brought up
Stark
Gwyneth
Industries.
Paltrow, and that's a perfect segue into one of my problems with the movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
It is. I am bothered that when we are doing the montage of people speaking against Peter, that two specific MCU characters aren't shown like on the news just defending Peter, like that nobody is there championing this dude after everything that happened in Infinity War and Endgame.
Sure.
And the two people are Pepper and Sam.
Oh yeah.
Brant, and I think it should have been Sam, frankly, because if you have him in his new Captain America outfit
He's
out
not Captain
there,
America yet, is he?
yes,
This
he is.
yeah,
This
this
is
is
by the
after.
time because 6 months passed during this time.
Oh, that's
You also-
true.
so
like
by the
when-
time
okay.
you're here, he's Captain
That's
America.
fair. Yeah.
Like
Also,
when
Falcon Winter Soldier takes place before Far From Home.
and also when Peter's swinging through, you see the Rogers like musical
Very true.
advertisements. So this
Very
is
true.
definitely after that.
So my thing about that is that you could have easily had Sam like out there saying like Peter Parker is like one of the best dudes, and you can have people like writing him off because they're like, you're not Captain America, dude. We just had John Walker and we're supposed to accept you. He's still in that phase. So he could be out there and people still ignoring him anyway, but somebody should have been standing up for Peter.
I 100% agree with. I guess I agree with that. Again, like I don't need an MCU cameo to get the same
I
point.
literally just
across.
wanted it in the news the same way that we were seeing a lot of the other things in
Sure.
the news. Like, it doesn't need to be a big moment, but it bothers me that like there's this idea that nobody was out there supporting him.
Do you
Well,
think?
when he's at school, he has two sides of supporters and non-supporters.
No.
do
I
you
mean
think-
like the people who fought alongside
I
him,
get
like
it.
those MCU heroes.
Question for you,
That's one of the things where like the wider MCU world feels like it's not being in service because it does suck that like there's plenty of characters where it makes sense why we're not seeing anything about them talking about him. But like those two in particular, I'm like, that
Do you think
they
that
should
the
have.
reason is because every time we see a TV screen doing the news project, I'm just spitballing with you. Do you think that the reason could be because when it's on screen, it's always after he's revealed, it's always the Daily Bugle? Like, do you think that that's because we don't see any support because
mean,
it's just J. Jonah Jameson doing his own propaganda?
You can definitely do that read on it. I think there are easy ways to have even just a voice on a radio interview with Jameson or something of Sam Wilson talking to him, and you don't even see him, you just hear his voice. So somebody who was involved with Peter in the Avengers events is talking for him.
Yeah.
It's just a little weird when you think about these guys who are our heroes in the Avengers, letting a underage kid have to fend for himself in this situation is a little bizarre. I understand them not like appearing in the movie, not coming right to his doorstep and helping him out or that kind of thing, but not having any moment where we're getting that notion that these guys who we're supposed to really admire and look up to as our heroes are not defending this kid. Sucks a little.
Sure.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Does it destroy the movie? No.
I just don't think it's. I get it. I absolutely did not need it. I didn't need I got everything that I it would have been nice. I got the same message without it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm kind of in the same boat as Ryan is here, because like it wasn't really something that came to my mind, so it's not really something that I think I desired for as far as like overall like thoughts about this movie goes. Like I think this movie honestly gives me everything I could have ever wanted from this type of film or an MCU movie, surely. That's why I said in the beginning, like I really struggle to find anything negative to talk about with this movie. And I'm sure maybe over the years I will, but like I really like this movie, guys.
I just it's one of those things.
No, I get it, man.
So Doctor Strange wants to do a spell, and Spider-Man just messes it up because he just won't stay quiet.
I love the way they visualized it with the always having to create a new ring when he's adjusting it.
Yeah, he's like, all right, okay. So everyone's gonna forget that you're Spider-Man. Okay, cool. Wait, what about my girlfriend?
Okay,
Okay. Everyone
but her. Okay, everybody but Ned.
I love he always like puts the ring like down. He's like we can't use this one. We'll do it another one.
Yeah. And like, it just keeps getting worse. And like, I really love that, like the fidgety nature of like, stop tampering with the spell, because like shit's about to get real bad.
There's a sequence when like they're in like the exploded room, and then there's like
the cosmos.
There's like a thing in a cloud just looks over like, hey, what's going on over there? I'm like, what the hell is that?
You changed my spell 5 times. Actually, it was 4 times, sir.
4
times.
Yeah.
You changed my spell.
I didn't expect. So I'll tell you what. So I talked with you a lot. Like I fully expected that the Statue of Liberty fight was halfway in the movie, and like this was an end game, and we had another third act that we didn't see. And I'm so thankful that it wasn't that. But I was still surprised how fast we got to the bridge scene with Doc Ock. Yeah, that's like, it's so. I'm like, oh shit, we're meeting
right away.
If we're meeting them like 25 minutes into this movie, that's crazy. Like,
that's actually a really good fight too with Doc Ock. Oh, it's so good.
I forgot. I never forget how good Alfred Molina is.
Yeah.
But like, I think everyone delivers an incredible performance in this movie.
Yeah.
I never felt once that anyone, even the voice work of like Thomas Hayden Church and Rhys Ifans, phoned anything in.
Yeah.
I totally felt. I understand the joke where Alfred Molina was like, I just did it for the money, but like, man, if that's true, you did not need to give 110%. And you did.
He definitely did it because he wanted to as well.
Yeah.
This is hands down, Doc Ock is the best de-aging effect that we've seen. It is flawless from beginning to end.
Both him and Defoe.
It looks like they're just.
Defoe's helped by having looked old when he did.
He was born 40.
Yeah.
Which is great. But like Molina's like, dude, that just looks like 2004 Alfred Molina. Like, this is the best it's
a little up, but not by a lot.
It looks the best it's ever been.
There is an issue that this type of de-aging technology has, that because it's the same one that Star Trek Picard used. A lot of the time what Disney has done before is that they would shave some of the with the CGI some of your cheeks off.
Yes.
Because your cheeks sag as you get older.
Yeah.
What they did in Far From Home is very similar to what they did with Data in Star Trek Picard, because Data's face had puffed out much. It like the de-aging's good, but like you still got the puffy face of being a 70-year-old man. And I think that is still present on Molina, but they have definitely done some of the best de-aging work we've seen so far.
He looks real good, man.
I still think Michael Douglas is the gold standard from Ant-Man.
Sure.
That's pretty good,
because he looks like he did in the 90s.
He walked out of the 90s.
Yeah.
But I think
it's true. I think Michael Douglas looks incredible, but it helps that he's just in a single 30-second scene.
Yeah.
And but Alfred Molina is very good.
Yeah. I think that the writing about like getting him to the bridge and why that happens is very good. Of like, Strange being like, Holland being like, wait, you can do that? And he's like, oh my god. And then so he goes and he calls Flash and he's like, I need to. God, Tony Revolori,
because he's now
Flash.
Peter Parker's best friend. He wrote a book.
Oh my
god. Agent Venom.
God, when he walks in like tone deaf on the MIT,
No Sleep Till Boston, wearing an MIT shirt.
So that propels him to go talk to her like immediately after, so we can get right into that.
He's got
like the script's very
college.
smart about why it's doing. Well, he's not even like championing him; he's just championing Ned and MJ, which is very Peter Parker for him to do. I think back and I love that all the people who thought that shot where he's like looking over at Doc Ock and it's got the lady in the car thought that lady wasn't really her. They thought that was like someone else being CGI'd out to just be like Peter's talking to someone else who's really important in that car. Like, who's that going to be? And I'm like,
Robert Redford.
Nah.
Just the lady.
I think the whole sequence is really good where he's trying to save her. And like, I really like that the MIT lady, her thing is like, Peter, you're a hero. I'm going to talk about about MIT to you. No, Ned and MJ. No, I'm going to talk about them with your friends and you.
And she yells at Doc Ock.
Yeah.
You should know better.
Great action scene.
Yeah.
I love that there was a reasonable motivation for him to be wearing the nanite suit.
Yeah.
It's because it was the fastest way for him to get to the bridge and use the Stark systems inside to try to find her on the bridge.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. So we have a story reason that he's wearing this suit.
And Doc Ock rips off some of that nanite, so we get a cool story reason where we have a cool new suit later.
Yeah.
It all works out.
Really,
it all weaves together.
I really like Melina's Ock's performance here when he no longer has control of the arms. Because Peter does, because his arms are not as advanced as Peter's suit.
Right.
Yeah.
He's so confused.
Yes.
He's like, what is happening?
I just love the confused look on Alfred Molina's face, and then Peter's like, "Huh, yeah, see, I'm in control now."
and then
I'm
when
the
he
sheriff
sees
around these parts.
when he sees Goblin flying and he's confused, like Norman?
Oh,
So-
has the spider sense ever looked this good or been used this
No.
much?
Not for Holland.
Mysterio is where they started really like
Yeah.
playing into it. So like there was no, I remember us talking about this throughout all of it. So there was no spider sense really in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
We had a discussion about how we thought that the only moment where it was there was that he detected the gun without seeing the gun.
Yeah.
And then you get in the war where he hears stand
On
up
the
and then
bus.
he sees the ship. But Mysterio is where he started to like really utilize
Yes,
it. They
for
made a
the
point of it so that
hologram
he could
stuff.
counter the illusions. That's how he was able to do it. But now we get the stuff, because we're talking about the spider sense, the part where he faces Doctor Strange later and gets pushed out of his body, and you see the waves above his
It's
head
incredible.
from the
Yeah.
comics. I'm like, man, look at him
I
go! They
noticed
did
that.
it.
I noticed that, and I'm like, they did it.
And that's
They
why
did
he's
the
able to
thing.
control his.
Yes,
his body.
exactly, 100%.
Strange is so confused. Like, how are you doing this?
It's just like a defense mechanism.
So
Yeah.
I think now, because we're segueing into the villains, it's a good time to talk about like I'm grateful to have been misled by the marketing and wrong that the villains were going to be variants of themselves.
Yeah.
That they are
They're
in
moments
fact,
before they
the,
die.
The reason why it is cathartically working, not necessarily because Lizard and Sandman are pulled out of a time when they didn't die, they're just there.
Yes.
It's
Also,
it's
Electro
before-
doesn't know he's Peter Parker, but let's just not talk about it.
It's
Yeah.
before it's before Lizard was cured.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But he says no because Andrew says he's cured him before.
Well, no, because Andrew is from a
Andrew
point-
is from later in his
later in
timeline
his-
Oh, that's
too.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like they're all pulled out of their specific moments.
Yeah.
Whatever that may be, not necessarily death, but yeah, and so
Oh shit! I was about to die.
we're picking up
Mhm.
these cathartic beats, and that's why the story of these villains is allowed to be emotionally resonant, because the thing was they were not being newly reintroduced. They weren't being newly reintroduced to Peter, and their emotional arcs don't need to necessarily deeply connect to our Peter Parker, because they connect to us because we've watched these movies.
Yeah.
And if you didn't watch these movies, bummer.
I'll tell you what,
because
though.
they land better. They
So
do
hold-
a good job of recapping.
No. So
Yes.
hold up. One of my roommates asked me if he needs, because he hasn't seen the Amazing Spider-Man movies, kind of like Fanny.
Yeah.
And he asked me if he should watch those films before he goes see No Way Home, and I said yes. It will definitely help. You
I think
probably
I
don't
think,
have to.
As Sparks was about to say, it does make the emotional
Beats.
reverence, the beats. Thank you, of their arcs land better,
Mhm.
but it's not. And like Ryan was saying, it's not necessary because they still work well in this movie as just villains
It's-
from this movie.
It does what a really good comic book does. It gives you just enough lines so you have an imagination of who the character is. Like every villain gets like one or two lines of like, oh, you were this and this happened to you. That's all you really need for these villains.
And by the way, it's going back to like what I think. Like I think this movie gave me exactly everything I needed, because the villain interactions were very solid and
Oh, yeah.
well written.
yes,
Like,
yeah.
There's just like Norman and Ock look at each other, and like you get their history together, and you get like Thomas Hayden Church. Like in my world, they all died. Like you're both ghosts, and like a Lizard saying like, "Oh, Max, what are you doing here? Last I saw you had a comb over. Last I saw you were trying to turn the whole city into lizards." Like
I can still do it again if you want.
I could help you with a makeover by making me Lizard. Yes, exactly.
See, again, like, I don't like Lizard in the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, but here they make
He's-
him like a comedy guy.
He's way better here.
100%.
He is.
I love every interaction that he has with Max, because like it's cool to see that the villains that would have known each other if they were in the same movie,
So
like actually get to
on,
talk.
on that note, like I think every villain feels like where they were in their previous films continued. I think
Yeah.
they all pick up their characters perfectly, except the Lizard, because, and this is no shame on Reese Ifans, they just recreated that character. That is not the same dude. Like
Yeah.
this is a lizard who is way more comfortable in who he is and what he's doing.
Yeah.
This is not
This
the
was
lizard from the Amazing
For the
Spider-Man.
better.
And that's fine, for
Yeah.
the better.
so like I want us to say, I guess you guys know we've talked about the movie, it doesn't matter. I really appreciated that for this film, that the role they decided, like, look, we're not gonna make him the Amazing Spider-Man lizard, let's make him the dinosaur meme. Let's make him that character.
Yeah, they changed his look up, I think, in a slightly more improved way.
Yeah.
Kind of more dinosaur looking kind of mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, and his eyes are different.
Yeah.
I think it worked. I'm glad that since he is supposed to be a continuation of that version, I am glad that they didn't just go full blown and give him the snout or anything, because
Yeah.
then it wouldn't connect as
Yeah.
well.
When he goes, Max, do you know? Did I die?
Yeah. It does feel like basically internally it feels like it would be a lizard who, like, Rhys Ifans was imprisoned, so it would be the lizard that got out the next time.
Yeah.
So like him messing with the serum again and injecting himself again, becoming the lizard.
little
This
different
This would
outcome.
be it a little different.
Yeah.
That does kind of feel like what it would be like.
And like just like in the comics, like he's looked different in different iterations.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciated how they handled Electro. I know, like, one of Jamie Foxx's things is he's
Oh my gosh.
much like Andrew Garfield,
That they
spoken
hit
up.
that music beat when he comes back
Yeah.
in and blasts. I was
Dude,
like, holy
Listen,
shit.
as much as I love the Raimi and like all that stuff, the dun dun, I looked at you and I'm like, they did it.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. I can't believe they got the Magnificent Six in this movie. Unbelievable.
There's the thing where Jamie Foxx talks about, like, he also wasn't crazy about what happened with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but like he talked about how, like, in this film, what I appreciate the movie does is in this film he looks different because he's tapping into a different electrical energy than
Yeah.
his world, because that version of the character is so in tuned to the natural electrical rhythm of the world.
That new power.
Being in a new place gave him a new charge. I
Bro,
thought that was a cool idea.
it's-
I did too.
Yeah.
I actually love that. Even as like, I gotta buy it back. And then of course the whole thing is like, and they're just standing there like, I'm not buck ass naked.
Someone did, friend of the podcast, John Radley, did reach out to me and say he felt like Jamie Foxx was basically more like Jamie Foxx rather than continuing Max Dillon. And I'm like, I will push back on that and say that when we watch the movie, like, he is much closer to this version of Electro by the end of the film than he is the nerd dork that he is at the beginning of
Yeah.
the film. Like, he was heading in this direction. I think this just continues it. I don't think that he's necessarily just being Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he is bringing such, God,
Because there's-
that scene where him and Church talk and he's like, damn, gotta be careful where you fall.
Yeah, because like those sequences, that's the whole bit with Max in that apartment. Like, all of his scenes honestly didn't feel like Jamie Foxx. They felt like Max Dillon.
They felt like Electro.
Because here's the
continued.
thing, like in his world, quote unquote, he is like a loser, but now he's been reborn. He's the new hotness. He has a new power, and he has like unlimited power right in front of him. He's
'Cause-
like, this is my chance to be the best version of myself.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the version of him that's continuing in Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the version where that one was like, I have power, I can use it. This one is like, I can have everything I ever wanted.
Yeah, the dream is real now.
Right.
Yeah.
Guess I'm a
Damn.
villain.
And they
Damn.
play to that. I love that, like, he is kind of the linchpin of Norman's plan, is that
These are gifts.
that like, yeah, Norman knows that he's got to convince him, or Green Goblin, I should say more specifically.
God.
The Goblin knows that Electro is the key because he needs to be convinced that you are essentially a god and you should keep that
Yeah.
rather than being cured.
Could we talk about Goblin then?
Yeah, I
How
mean, we're talking about all the villains
Well,
now.
look,
Really.
I don't think any of us could have anticipated how hard Norman would return in this movie.
Yeah.
Willem goes so hard in this movie. This fight scenes in this movie are so, somebody on Twitter described them as crunchy.
Yeah.
And I think that's perfect because they are so brutal and they're slamming through so many floors of buildings.
Peter whacking the crap out of Norman and him just goblin laughing through it.
And
Dude, it's
there's
sick.
there's such an interesting film because I didn't anticipate. There's two things I want to talk about with Goblin specifically. I didn't anticipate that Peter would try to cure them. Like, hey guys, let's all go to my apartment and let's have a cure party. Like, I didn't anticipate how much I needed that scene.
Yeah.
Because I think that scene is very well written and creates a lot of great acting opportunities for all the returning characters.
Right.
And then the second thing is I didn't think that I would have. Oh, what was the first one? Shoot. Anyway, the scene where Aunt May tells Peter it's your responsibility to cure these people. Like, you should help them. You should help these people. And having Goblin, like Willem Dafoe, being like, I don't want to be Goblin anymore. I'm in a new world and I'm scared
Yes.
and I don't know.
So
what's happening.
that's when I knew this movie was going to be different
breaks the mask.
She
Yes.
gets the call that somebody's here at Feast at her.
One of those guys you're looking for is here at
Yeah,
Feast,
and he runs in, and it's just them sitting down. I'm like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be.
Oscorp doesn't exist.
It's so Spider-Man of like, I have to save all these villains. Like it's not about punching. This whole movie is not about
Yeah.
punching.
Willem Dafoe. Oscorp doesn't exist.
my son.
My son.
Oh my God, Willem is killing it. But
So good.
he's just tricking everyone.
Well,
He's so
I don't
good.
think. I think it's
Well, I think that he's Norman.
Yeah,
And
I
like
don't
the
think he's
we
Goblin.
saw Norman and Goblin fighting between each other in Spider-Man.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he is. That's why he smashes the mask. I think he thinks for a moment he can be free, and the Goblin's just waiting, biding its time as it watches from behind.
And
Norman's
he's waiting for the
eyes.
perfect
I
opportunity.
truly
yeah.
think that the Goblin doesn't come back until Osborn until Oscorp
Osborn?
Octavius.
Octavius.
So many O's. Says like you're about to be free, Norman. You're about to
Yes.
have your mind back. And I think that's when the
Yes.
Goblin's like, my turn.
yeah, I
Right,
think.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think Norman was out there, but I think Goblin had control. I'm just waiting for the right moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
the whole scene where Peter comes out after he's like essentially like after he fixes Doc Ock and everyone else is like getting helped. Electro has the little thingy on him, and then he's walking around and he's just like that.
This movie's insane.
That's the spider sense where everything else is just blurred.
So
So
the
good.
rack shot of the zoom focus in, one of my favorite things movies do, and they
Yes.
do it well. But it's like a solid like 45 seconds of just tense.
And everybody
Yeah.
like, Peter, what's going on?
we don't know who
And you're
the-
like, who is it?
who is it?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Because
I
they're
was
all like posing in
'cause
like the
They're all looking around.
I'll be honest with you, because for a moment there I was going, Venom.
Venom.
I was ready
Eminem
for him to
runs
just
in.
like burst into that building with all of them. So yeah, I will get to Venom later.
goblins fight with Peter.
The first one.
All of them.
Okay.
So good. But like specifically like the one in the apartment
Yeah.
is so well choreographed. I never thought and like that Willem Dafoe was like, I want to punch this little 25-year-old kid
Oh yeah.
on my own. Like Willem Dafoe
17.
17-year-old kid. Well, but Willem Dafoe is 60. Tom
Yeah,
Holland
yeah,
is 25.
yeah.
But like it's so cool seeing like Tom Holland like punching Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe goes ha ha ha.
Yeah.
He loves
Just the fact when Willem Dafoe goes from his Norman Osborn voice into his Goblin voice.
And he's
is-
so
Yes.
good.
So-
He's so good.
I mean, we watched the original Spider-Man movie. It was still really good, but just hearing him say new lines,
What's-
just
Or
Him.
it. He
or
didn't
just
drop
the,
it for 20 years. He didn't drop it.
no.
or just the I'm something of a scientist myself.
God,
All-
yes.
God, I couldn't believe it. Flipped out.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, like everything about them being captured, everything about them down there talking about the wizard being confused.
Oh, you know what I loved? Thomas Hayden Church.
Yeah.
Doesn't start the movie fighting Spider-Man.
No, yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
Peter, it's me. I'm here to help. And like, it's another reason why I'm like, those movies are basically essential if you don't remember them.
Yeah.
Flint Marco is picking up in like a complicated place with where he feels and how he feels about things. He's like, not my Peter. That's weird. All right.
Yeah.
And then he is mad because he thinks Peter might have killed him. And he's
Yeah.
like, did you kill? And he's like, and Peter freaks out and so captures him.
Don't forget about the tree monster in there.
The tree,
tree
yeah,
monster.
Is this a tree monster or a man that used to be a man and
It's
now
just
he's
a
a
tree
tree?
man.
It's just
Just
a tree
tree.
man.
It's just a treatment.
Great comedy. I do love like the way we get very succinctly with Doctor Strange into telling Peter like what's going on and that he'd already captured the lizard and he's like, well, watch this, okay? Do you know a Peter Parker that's Spider-Man in the universe? Yes. Is this him?
No.
There you go. See? So good.
Yeah. Doctor Strange disappears for this movie for like 40 minutes.
He's in the Grand Canyon
So
taking a vacay.
since we're kind of in that bubble area of the film, I love that like we were misled by the trailers, which is great, to believe that like these are versions of the villains who all died fighting Spider-Man, and that's like a crux of the film again, thinking these are variants. They just think that they all must die fighting Spider-Man because some of them did.
Yeah.
But the reality is that no, they didn't. Sandman did not. Lizard did not. They're just not sure.
Yeah.
But they assume that must be what happened because
Because-
they don't remember
Because
well
Max
enough.
doesn't tell the lizard you didn't die.
Correct.
Yeah.
So like, but he's checking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that they're all kind of operating under that belief, and that belief isn't necessarily true. That's very smart. That was a
Yeah.
very good way to handle it and create that motivation for the moment.
Yeah. The sequence where Doctor Strange and Peter fight, trying to get the box. Love seeing the mirror dimension.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, John Watts, you nailed it. That's exactly what you should be doing.
And having like Peter solve the magic with math Just
Oh,
really,
so
just really
good.
great. Like,
oh, the mirror world is just geometry.
I know that. I'm
Yeah.
great at that. Yeah, he's great at geometry,
some
but
of the best
yeah.
use of the mirror dimension.
Oh,
actually, yeah.
I
yeah.
want to speak about like John Watts' just like directing style in this film, because I think this is the one where his voice truly comes through. If John Watts has like a directing style,
He's-
like where
yeah.
you can hear his voice in his movie, this is the one where he does it the most.
Mhm.
I've often said that I think John Watts is one of the better MCU directors because he has to handle Sony, Marvel. He has to balance both Sony and Marvel, as most people just have to deal with Marvel.
Yeah.
And so like I always talk about like how I think that his films are probably the best they can be because he's doing so much. He's
Between the two.
between the
So
two.
much negotiating.
And so like this one really felt like he came to his own, and it makes me very excited for that Fantastic
Yo,
Four
they-
movie.
they-
Everybody's there. Everybody's like, that Fantastic Four movie gonna be great.
Yeah, the Kevin Feige saw this movie and he's like, "Oh, word. Hey, boy, I got something for you."
Because like if he's doing this good with Sony and Marvel on his back, having just Marvel, that movie's gonna rock.
Yeah. And he comes from like a comedy background, so like, and like the comedy, like 95% of it, and again, the second time I've seen this movie, like the comedy really works. I think this is a really funny,
Yeah.
well written script. So like,
I'm
so excited for
The
the
writers
future.
of this movie, and surprisingly Far From Home and Homecoming, also wrote Ant-Man and the Wasp.
it makes sense. Oh my god, good comedy.
They also
Marvel.
came from Community, so like
Brilliant.
Community.
There it is.
Community
Yeah.
just gets everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Doctor Strange. He's not in the movie too much. I
No.
love where he is. When we got
you
him
make a
captured
portal?
and he pulls the sling ring off of him and he's like, ow.
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
Just like kind of being put upon, like
he's
just
just not.
like, damn it, Peter.
He's like, don't do this. I can stop you. Don't. Did you make a portal? Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good old Ned. Good for him.
I've
And
seen
of course,
people
when he does like the slides, like, what was that? And you see the spark, and then he's like, Peter Parker. Then you see the portal. Like,
We'll get there. We'll get
We'll
there.
get there,
Oh,
Ben.
Calm down.
All right.
We're not there yet. I want to talk about, because we're circling it. The villains are great.
Yeah.
Everybody's given 110%. It is a bummer to me that Thomas Hayden Church couldn't be in his human form a little more of the
I
movie.
agree.
It only bothers me specifically when they go to the condo and he like sits on the couch and he's like, "Oh, sorry about the sand." Like
Yeah.
it's a good joke, but I'm like, he could turn into his normal person form. Like
Yeah.
that happened plenty. Like I don't know why he wouldn't.
The
here,
only thing
other than like the scheduling and like,
Yeah.
fine, I get it. I can live with it. I don't care.
they don't say it in the movie because this would give it a pass for me. But he's like, different universe, hard to keep together. They didn't. But
They could've,
They
yeah.
could have, but they didn't. So I'm like,
100%.
Right.
there's-
Different dirt.
there's no reason for him to be not as good as he used to be. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the only scene where it bothers me. I'm like, why would he still be sand here?
But
I can accept it pretty much everywhere else up to that point.
This
And I'm
is-
like, bro, I get it. Like COVID
Yes.
schedules,
That
whatever.
specific, like the apartment scene, it's very apparent that Lizard is stuck downstairs in a thing, and then
Yeah.
and
Reese
Sandman's
Ivans
Sandman.
could not be there.
And
Yeah.
and like, you didn't need Lizard up there at the moment.
No.
And like, I can live with that.
Yeah.
But like, it definitely, I felt that one, and
Yeah.
I'm like, it's fine. It really is fine. I'd rather he be in the movie than not. He's also another person you'd have to do de-aging work with.
It's just
He's
unfortunate.
got a whole beard and hair look because he's a regular on a show right now. You'd have to deal with. I understand. It just story-wise isolating just to the movie is like, that's a little strange.
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're right. They did have it out that they could have just given themselves, and they didn't do it.
That's
Yeah.
Sparks. Careful where you fall.
Gotta be careful where you
Gotta
fall.
be careful where you
So
fall.
funny. Got a way bigger laugh in our theater than I thought it would.
Yeah, me
like
too.
I laughed hard, and so did a lot of people.
I'm
like,
so
that's
glad-
a great line.
Again, like I'm so happy for Jamie Foxx and other actors who we'll talk about later. But like,
Can't you take the chair out of the guy?
oh
Like, you
yeah,
can't take the guy out of the chair.
It does one
God.
of those things. I think this movie, through the villains, the other people we're going to get to, it does one of those things where it makes even the worst parts of some of the previous films worth it
Yep.
for this.
it honestly, like, it's one of those things where like retroactively, I'm like, it makes me want to go watch those movies. Like, even though I just did it, I'm like, I have like a new movie to add to that list of movies.
Right.
It's like a whole new thing.
much
Yeah, they're
like
all
Marvel.
kind of a 0.5
Yeah.
now.
Much like Marvel has done the legwork to retroactively make Thor: The Dark World better.
Yeah.
This one accidentally kind of makes like Spider-Man 3 much more watchable.
Kind of hit better, and Amazing
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2 hit a little better.
Yeah, you kind of go through them like, oh yeah, that's
'Cause you
I'm
now
into
have-
this.
It puts a
Like,
new polish on them.
Yeah.
Because you're
that
like,
you're
oh
able
yeah,
to, but I see this because I know where they go now, and like that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think now let's talk about Aunt May. And I'm gonna say real quick up front, I don't really know entirely 100% yet how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Aunt May being
Uncle Ben.
the Uncle Ben.
Yes.
And I'm sorry to lose Marissa Tomei. I think in this movie, here's how I need to say it. I think in this movie, it all works.
Yeah.
I really love it. I love the moment. I love it. I think it's very, very passionate with how much it cares about these characters and that kind of thing. In this movie, it really works for me. I love it.
Yeah.
When I think about the previous things, I love it less.
Yeah.
And it's because I wish there had been more good Marissa Tomei as Aunt May before this, if this is what was going to happen.
Sure.
But more importantly, I'm not sure, like, they definitely weren't thinking this when we did Civil War.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
they infer that Ben is the motivating factor of him being Spider-Man, that kind of thing. And I'm like, this is one of those choices where it kind of makes those moments maybe a little clunkier.
That's
and
fair.
freshman year might fix it. So it is like an external MCU problem more than it is this movie's problem.
Yes.
But like, my biggest disappointment in losing her this soon is I'm like, we didn't get a lot of great Marissa Tomei as May in Far
Yeah,
From
she
Home.
has
She was
fair.
so sidelined in that movie
Yeah.
She has
that
not
like we
had
didn't get a lot.
She has not had a lot to do in either of the first two Spider-Man films.
Right. And she gets so much here, and I do love it. That's the thing, is like, here it's good. It's just, it makes those last things not
Like
sing so good.
we could have had better Aunt May material to work with that led us to here, but we don't. You have-
Absolutely. Yeah.
This movie, while it does a really good job at doing the legwork, it had to do the legwork.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
Homecoming is the only other appearance for her where she like gets some good stuff, but even then, like that's on a very like surface level minimal. Far From Home, I think, is the biggest bummer because that's the one where she knew he was Spider-Man, but we only get her at the beginning and end of the movie.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
When you get to this point. And it's more just I love her as Aunt May. I wish we could have had more of what we got with her here before
makes-
this moment.
Yes.
perfect
And
sense.
again, like, so good here. That Ben Parker thing is also going to be like, how are we going to clean that up?
Her death in this film, like, because there's the moment where like Goblin like hits her with the glider, and you're like, oh shit. I know what happens when that
They
happens.
trick you.
They trick you, and they're like, oh, thank God, she's alive. And then
I was so mad.
she gives the great power comes great responsibility line, which I thought was well handled in that moment. And then
And the moment she said it, I'm like, oh, she's dying.
yeah, 100% was like, oh shit.
So I absolutely adore.
Closest time I've ever cried to come to crying in this movie.
Yeah, it's funny enough, this is the thing that made me cry. Everything I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Like I do wish we had more Aunt May to lead up to this moment.
Right. It's not the problem of this movie.
no, yeah.
It's not this movie's problem. It's
Absolutely.
the problem of like the hindsight of previous things
Yeah.
that just didn't do her justice before this happened.
Again, this is like the best Spider-Man movie, and it's like
I hope
one
to
of them is
God,
because of Aunt
I
May.
hope to God she's the voice of Aunt May for that freshman year show.
Me too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Me too.
The thing that I adore, like again, I would love to have Marissa Tomei in the future, but like I absolutely love the commitment to this and having,
Me too.
in a way, like this is Spider-Man's origin story. Like he has not truly been the Spider-Man that we know, because in those other movies he hasn't been.
Right.
And I know they didn't plan it, but like now that we're here, like the arc to become where he is and to become Spider-Man, and she is his Aunt May is Uncle Ben, it hits so hard.
I agree.
So good. And especially at the scene later, like I'm happy now that we're here. I'm so happy Uncle Ben has not been focused, because it would have taken away so much from what this moment is.
I agree.
There's so many times where like in the MCU, like you just kind of wonder what they want with Spider-Man and kind of the role, and it's sorry, I was stalling. This is the point I want to make. Consequences in the MCU are not often a thing that we talk about.
What stakes?
There are times where a giant Eternal will show up and they'll just leave that, but like most of the time, like everything's kind of back to normal, and certainly with the Spider-Man films.
Or they mishandle all the fallout from it, like the blip.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like you have this moment in this movie where like Spider-Man's decision to try to help these people led to consequences, and like having those consequences be permanent was really important.
Yes.
And I'm glad they made them both permanent. The idea that like they didn't say, oh, we figured out a way to make everything okay, or we figured out a way to bring back Aunt May. Like that was like they committed to both decisions in this movie, and I think the movie is much stronger for them.
Absolutely. And like, man, the final moments of Aunt May going out, but she's still saying you did the right thing.
Yes.
I have died, but you still made the right choice is so important to this. It recontextualizes that great power, great responsibility line in such a different way.
Right.
Because he's had years of being Spider-Man, but not really being the Spider-Man that we know. And like this is the moment that he's born.
And years of being well off because of being an Avenger.
Yeah.
And so like he has this
and 'cause
moment with Mr. Tomei. Sorry, real quick. I want to just mention like his reaction to her death when he's like, when he's like, no, what are you doing? Wake up! Why are you doing this? Like he can't process that this consequence is now because of it's such a great moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's good because it's not a mistake. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's being recontextualized as like, you didn't make a mistake in this happen.
It just,
you didn't do something
it's
wrong.
an unfortunate thing.
It's just sometimes this is how it goes, and
Yeah.
you still did the right thing. Peter.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm just like just a last note on that. Like I do hope freshman year will clean this up a little, make it so that because that I watched the moment in Civil War recently. Like I did all of Tom Holland's stuff.
Yeah.
In a lead up to this, and like it's so clearly inferred, and especially with Spider-Man: Homecoming, with his comments about like what she's been through, that kind of thing, like that Ben was killed. That Peter feels some kind of connective responsibility to it. So I do hope that that's like cleared up.
I have a feeling
made clean.
They do infer it, but like I wouldn't be shocked if like they do something completely different and he's just like,
I don't think at this point it will be a beat for beat of that.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Someone suggested on like maybe Uncle Ben's like a deadbeat dad. He just left. And I'm like that is a real shitty thing for that thing to do, for that someone to do. And like I think like he might as well be dead. You know what I mean? If he's gonna be that kind of person, like a different take. So we have this anime as
I don't know if we'd have the sentimental moments about him like wearing Ben's clothes at the dance or the suitcase.
No, yeah, that's true.
So like I don't know that can sing either.
No,
so like they'll have to find their way to navigate it, and it is just one of those unfortunate things where like you're losing this talent who I feel like finally got their biggest moment to shine.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn, I wish we had more to this. It really works in this movie. It's just,
no, I agree.
Such a shame.
Oh, I really like that new suit design with the nanobots. Nanobots. I didn't mention it before, but the nanobot over the normal suit was really cool.
Yeah. You can play with it in
really
Spider-Man
awesome
PS5.
Should we get into kind of the big thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I thought Aunt May was one of the most important things we had to tackle before we moved on. So, y'all knew they were going to be here.
Yeah.
So Andrew and Toby are not in the movie, unfortunately.
Dude, when Topher Grace was the one who showed up, I could not believe it.
Right? It was so crazy that they got him
They
back.
got the Japanese Spider-Man come out there. It's crazy.
Yeah. The one from the 70s, I think, is still alive.
It was really cool in our screening because there was waves of realization when the portal was opening.
Right. The first portal, you're like, that's
I
not...
knew the second it happened because I knew the outfit immediately.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, like, I remember like being in the condo scene where he starts like curing the villains, and I'm like, I know they're in this movie, but if they weren't, I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah,
no, at
honestly,
this point, I wouldn't be.
I got what I wanted.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, if they're in it, it's the cherry on top.
At this point, I was expecting them to show up in the third act like a big, like in Ghostbusters Afterlife, and that was what I was scared of.
Right, me too.
Luckily,
I was really surprised at how much screen, like, to talk about, like, again, this film gave me everything I needed.
They're in 40 minutes.
They're in 40 minutes of this movie.
They're in the last act,
and
absolutely.
they have every interaction I could have ever wanted these three to have.
Yeah,
there's not one. I've not thought of one of. Oh, I wish they had done that one. No, they did every single interaction I could have ever needed from these three Spider-Man.
But again, like in a checklisty way, they did everything you would want, but not in a bad fan service way. Like it felt natural because, like, oh my god, you can shoot your own webs. That's disgusting.
That's
of course
the beauty of this movie is that it's all natural.
It's again, I had to see it a second time because I was worried that nostalgia was the thing that was making me love this movie. It's not. It's absolutely not. These guys could not have been in the movie, and I would still love it just as much for what it means to Spider-Man.
Right.
They are super duper icing on the cake.
Right.
This movie's already great, and then we get like the best fan service that's ever been in a movie. Maybe.
Ben,
give me a break.
Ben, say what you wanted to say, and then I'm gonna pick up.
What was I gonna say?
It's a good question.
I'm pretty much I was gonna say that because I was gonna agree with Sparks that if Toby and Andrew never showed up in this movie, I probably would have been fine with it. But when they do show up, I feel like they show up at the perfect time because also I was scared about the whole fan service thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because it's like you have these two other prolific actors who play Spider-Man, such a iconic character, and it's like, oh, it's just gonna be like fan service after fan service. But no, it was done
Isn't
so
one of
well.
your squares Seabiscuit and Social Network joke?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That was definitely one of my throwaways. But at the
Seabiscuit.
same time, it was like when we see Andrew Garfield I was surprised Andrew Garfield was the first Spider-Man we saw.
I wasn't. I knew that they would make the the Tobey Maguire. I was a little surprised that Tobey Maguire just kind of sauntered in.
Yeah.
I love it.
But then it's like, hey, I've been here for a while. I'm trying to find your friend. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, Tobey Maguire, like Andrew Garfield's just kind of like, I'm not really sure what's happening, but Tobey was like, I've been trying to find your friend.
Bro, I'm lost.
Andrew
Yeah.
Andrew like knows there's another Spider-Man, so he's already kind of with it, but he's definitely going about his own way trying to figure it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
But Toby
No.
was like actively. I really like the idea that Toby was like, I know what he's going through, and I need to see him.
Right.
Mhm.
I want to help him.
He had a sense. Got a spider sense about it.
I love. This is jumping ahead a little bit, but I don't care. I love the scene on Statue of Liberty. where
Which
all three-
one?
all three of
Ben?
it. When all three of it before the fight,
Peter 3.
where all three
Peter
of them,
3.
where all three of them are just talking about like where you see the organic webbing, and then there's like, oh yeah, what's the craziest villain that any fought?
Oh,
It's
that
like,
was
yeah.
a fun one.
I just
I fought
love
an alien. I fought one too.
Yeah,
What?
a big purple one. Man, I'm
No,
lame.
I
I just
fought-
fought a greasy dude.
I fought an alien
Right off
in
the
space.
coast. Yeah.
Oh wait, I'm still on the thing about you fighting an
Fighting
alien
in space. Yeah.
And then of course Andrew Garfield's like, oh, I'm lame. I just fought a greasy
Hold
guy.
on, hold on, back it up. You're amazing. No, no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. You're amazing.
I
Yeah.
love that so much. Like say it to yourself. I know.
No. I really needed to hear it.
I really need to hear
so,
it. Thank you.
So I think why Toby and Andrew is so good in this movie, on top of everything else, is that, and I'm gonna give a little more credit to Andrew than Toby, but like both of them came back also bringing 110%, not
Yes.
just the villains.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And it showed like for nobody was this a cash grab appearance.
No, Andrew worked his. Yo, that dude is crying so much. Oh my god.
I think I do think Andrew outperforms most people in this movie that aren't Willem Dafoe.
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
true.
Yes.
Oh,
He,
yeah.
he is in his. He's still in 2014 Twilight angsty mode.
And I
Like,
had this discussion with other people where I'm like, I'm sure Toby likes Spider-Man just fine. I know Tom Holland really likes Spider-Man. I know Andrew Garfield loves
Yes.
Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
1000% loves Spider-Man, and that is so clearly on screen.
the thing that you always kind of worry about, like with, and even in the MCU, like the way the Russo brothers write the Guardians of the Galaxy is not the same way that James Gunn writes the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
Sure.
So like when you have different writers writing characters that, like, I love Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. I really love how Andrew Garfield plays that Peter Parker, speaks like that Peter Parker. I really enjoy it. And when he walks through that portal, it's like he just is that Peter Parker again. There's no disconnect in the writing and the way he
100%.
performs it, and much in the same way like Toby, I think also. But like, it was really cool to see Andrew kind of like when he does the thing where he tops up, like, yeah, that's exactly what this guy. He's that Peter Parker again.
Right.
I love that whole scene where it's like, okay, prove
Can
it.
you
He
get
just,
this cobweb?
No, he just jumps up on the scene and Zendaya's like, Roman's like, really? I'm sticking to the ceiling right now.
Yeah. Toby's performance, like he's just a more subdued Spider-Man. That's just like who he was. But like
an
he's
older
yeah.
Peter. Yeah.
and he is doing that. Like it
Oh.
really felt like watching that dweeby guy, but he's in
When he
his 40s.
sees Octavius again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Octavius, Peter, dear boy, you've
My
grown
boy.
up.
Yeah. How are you doing? And he's like, trying to do better.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love that.
Yeah. Like when he gets the arc reactor, the power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So good.
Yeah.
All the music you'd want's there.
All the
Unbelievable.
music.
I think
um,
there's the fun sequence when they're making all the cures, and I really enjoy the bit where it's like where they're like talking like, I'll do a lizard. I've done this one before. I've cured him before. I've cured Goblin.
No. He said, "I'll do the cure for Goblin. I've been thinking about it for a long time."
Yeah, that's
And
the line. I really appreciate
Yeah.
that line because it does feel like it's a continuation of those movies. Again, it does feel like these people have just stepped off of where we would have left them
And-
if they had kept going.
And you're right. They touch on everything you'd want them to touch on. They touch on
Mhm.
Harry. They touch on
Gwen.
Venom. They touch on
Yeah.
the fact that they made Andrew's Peter talk about Gwen in place of talking about
Yes.
his Uncle Ben too was so good and
Yeah.
so smart, and I loved it so much.
Absolutely.
and comes back around because it's important to saving
and that we
MJ.
learned something I think is really nice and specific and cool about his Peter, which is after we see him in Amazing Spider-Man 2,
It doesn't get better.
he stopped pulling his punches.
It gets
Yeah.
worse.
He got worse, and that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool to know that like he went through a dark era after that,
And-
and he came back the other side.
Yeah, and he realizes that like I see this younger Peter Parker going through the same thing, and like I have to help him. He can't be what I became. Like, and I
Yeah.
believe it. It's so believable.
Andrew and Toby get scenes on their own. Like I think that there's some also just really great comedy. Like I don't mean to, like, we all know this one. I don't mean to brag, but I will. I was on the Avengers.
Wow,
That's great.
That's
Great.
incredible.
Who are they?
What's that?
I love that. I love how Toby was like the one was like, that is awesome. what are they? And
Well,
it's like,
Are you in a?
gonna-
That sounds like a band. Are you in a band?
Also, again, like such smart writing to have them having trouble because these two Spider-Men are used to being alone.
Yeah.
They don't know
They're
how
the
to
only
be a part
heroes
of a team
in their
And then
in the
in their
universe.
worlds.
And
yeah.
then we get like what would be a trailer shot if they didn't want to spoil it, of like them all swinging together, them swinging off each other.
Oh, so
like,
good.
I'm
Come
so
on.
glad that was not in the marketing.
I do really like how the decision to be like, yeah, they're not going to work together very well at first.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good way to play that.
Yeah.
And how they're all they're saying Peter, or of course Ned's like Peter. All three of them. Yeah. Parker. Yeah. Still us.
All
still.
of us still.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Ned real quick. Like Ned and MJ, like they are good. Like
They're good supporting
they're
cast.
great supporting cast. Like obviously, like this isn't their movie, but like Ned being a magic man
They
is so
don't
funny.
have an emotional arc with MJ being closer than Ned
Yes,
does.
yes.
But like the focus is I think wisely on Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And I really like what Ned and MJ do. There's nothing about them that subtracts from the
Yeah.
movie.
The MIT story is a smaller version of what's happening in the bigger story.
Yes.
Like they are going to
Yes.
lose each other at the
Right,
end, and
exactly.
that sucks.
Peter, I finished your web shooters, and also I promise that I'm never going to go crazy and become one of your villains. And then Andrew Garfield just,
My man.
Good job. or like just,
Toby just like,
Or when he's talking to Tobey Maguire, he's like, "Oh, you did, yeah,
what was the
died
thing?
in my arms."
What was the thing
It was
where he's
heartbreaking.
he said like Ned said something embarrassing and Andrew just goes,
yeah. I don't remember, but yeah, there's too many good bits. Too
There's-
many good
there-
bits to go through each one.
and it's such a fun movie while also never losing sight of what the emotional core of that movie
Yeah.
this movie needs to be.
And again, like all the the villains also like switch sides at times because like Doc Ock like becomes good again.
Mhm.
Sandman is just like flip flopping throughout the whole movie because
Oh,
he just
his-
wants to
when
go
his
home.
ship
yeah,
is-
yeah.
When his
So-
ship is saved, he's just like,
It's
it's
so
quiet.
quiet.
Another minor nitpick of mine. I think that they cover it okay, but not great.
Mhm.
Of Sandman when things are going south at the apartment, and he's just like, "I'm out,"
He
and
just
I'm like,
leaves.
"Yeah, okay, I guess."
He's a coward.
Because I'm like, his logic is still like he just cares about the fastest way to get home to his daughter. Well, the fastest way is still, once he's seen Peter cure Otto, the fastest way is still to help him take care of the villains.
Yeah.
And like it's weird that he just dips out on that one. It's also weird, like I don't understand what Otto's doing until we see him at the statue.
Also, the Goblin just shows up at like it. That's
Like the Goblin, I could buy.
Yeah.
Like everyone else who's like kind of like plotting their villain crap, like whatever. But like, why isn't Otto like right by Peter's side? Is a little.
that is a good
strange.
question. That is like a Civil War fight. Like
yeah.
where is this person?
Yes.
There's another sequence in the end. So a lot of the major when Goblin shows up, Peter is so vengeful towards the Goblin that he wants to kill him, and he's trying very hard not to give into that idea, but he's still
Anger.
there's a thing.
Norman's pushing all the buttons.
Norman's
yeah.
pushing all the buttons. So we talked about like one great arc for Andrew is that he is able to save MJ.
Right.
Mhm.
You brought it
great-
up, and we gotta talk about that moment real quick.
Okay,
Mhm.
sure.
He acts the shit
Oh,
out of that. It
That's-
is a brief moment, and you see
you see
relief,
tears
you
going
see
down his eyes.
anguish, you see like pride and pain.
Yeah.
It's so good. Oh my god.
There's something that I told you this yesterday, but I liken him a lot to David Tennant. Not so much like acting skill because that varies, but like when David Tennant was on Doctor Who, and whenever I see David Tennant on screen, he's able to his emotions transcend the screen. You
Yes.
feel whatever emotion he's feeling, and very much similar in a very much similar vein. I feel the same way about Andrew Garfield.
Oh yeah.
When he
I-
is emoting, like you feel it.
I do not mean to like shit on anybody else, like, but of the three Spider-Men, I think Andrew Garfield is the strongest actor.
Oh
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
that's 100% the case. And like
100%.
Tom Holland's still learning, still growing, and like Toby just is not on the same level.
He doesn't
that-
act anymore.
Toby's not on the same level. Like Andrew is bringing things to the table that just like blow you away, and that the fact that he had that moment, the fact that the way they handled it was so good.
Yeah.
His allowing him to, it wasn't just like a hell yeah moment. It was like a bring you right back, make you feel everything he felt at the loss of Gwen.
Yeah.
Make that moment like sing so hard, so complicated.
Yeah.
And especially if like, because I know so many people just rewatched all these movies.
Yeah, right.
To have that in the back of your brain of like he just like we know what he just experienced.
Yeah.
And he's still living in that sadness, and like it's just so nice that like again it is kind of fan servicey, but like in the story it totally makes sense why it happens how it happens.
And
And
like,
it's so emotional.
And
Yeah.
the other one I think is really solid, which is Toby stops the glider from impaling.
Toby catches the glider.
He catches
yeah.
the glider
Yeah.
because like that was not one that was prevalent in my mind, but as the MJ one because that was such a 1-to-1. But like seeing Toby's determination, like, no.
And no, they don't even talk to each other. It's just a look.
Right? No, he's just looking at him and he's like,
This isn't it.
You're not this, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to let you be this.
And I'm not going to let this glider impale
He
this guy again.
is being Uncle Ben.
Yes.
Like what he knows Uncle Ben to have been.
You're
He's
not-
being his Uncle
You are
Ben.
so right, because when he's stabbed and he's on the floor, that's framed the same way that his Uncle Ben's death was framed.
Yes.
And I thought that was excellent.
Yeah,
Bit
he
by half.
knows in his mind he needs to be Uncle Ben right now to
Yeah.
this Peter Parker.
Scared
Even
the
when-
shit out of me when he got stabbed.
Even when Peter is talking, like when they're on the roof of the school, and he's like, "Don't, I know your instinct right now. We're here to help." It's like they can tell that Tom Holland's ready for a fight.
Yeah.
And again, like their first big meetup, and like, you have no idea what I'm going through, and they're like, bro, we're older than you, and we've dealt with more than you. You have no idea. I know exactly what you're dealing with. It's so good.
But I think they handle it in a way that's so
Thoughtful.
Yeah, it's thoughtful. Yeah.
There's nothing that someone who's grieving hates worse than saying, "I know exactly what you're going through."
Yeah.
They do the thing is like, we get it.
Yeah.
When we also lost our, like, we're like reaching out, trying
Yeah.
to reach out emotionally and say, like, we're with you. We're you.
Yeah.
We're here to help you.
And again, like, I thought the third act of this movie was going to be 6 Spider-Man, 10 villains, like a big endgame thing, and I can't tell you how happy I am that
And
it's
it's
so
And
self-contained.
it's so nice that the last fight sequence isn't just an emotional one. It is one with an active goal for all the Spider-Man. Let's cure these guys.
Yeah.
They're not going to want it. Let's cure these guys.
And again,
Right.
even the final fight, it ends with like a Spider-Man intervening, going like, "This isn't Spider-Man. You don't do this." Like,
Yeah.
it is Spider-Man to the core all the way through.
Like, because he relates the idea of what happened with the guy who killed his Uncle Ben, and he's like, it's not going to make it better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just going to make it worse.
And again, like, if you've never seen a Spider-Man movie before, they give you just enough so you understand all of these Spider-Man and what they've been through, and you know, like, oh, they're both the older Spider-Man. Like, again, like, osmosis knowledge helps, but like, if you're a fan of all these movies, like, it's a payoff for all of them.
Yeah.
Like, it's, again, this, I would love to read what this, like, the actual script for this movie,
Yeah.
because it is so good.
I can't wait to
believe it.
see, like, when we get to see whatever it is, interviews before the Blu-ray or on the Blu-ray
Yes.
bonus features. Like, I want to see Toby, Andrew, and Tom get to talk about
Me
this.
too.
I want
Lord,
to see the
yes.
discussion.
I'm
between
waiting
these
for the
guys.
first interview that Andrew Garfield gives. I'm waiting for it, because he's like, "Sorry guys, sorry for the last year."
They told me what I
I
had
say-
to say.
and you know what? You brought that up, so I do want to talk about it. Like, watching the movie, no one was fooled. Everybody knew Andrew and Toby were going to be in this movie. They were not shameless small appearances. They were fully heartfelt
Keep talking, I
things.
need to pee.
Sure. There is no reason that they couldn't have told us they were in this movie a couple months ago. It didn't serve anybody
Yeah.
except to make life hard for those actors.
It's true.
And like, you didn't need to put them in the trailers. I didn't need to see footage of them, but we could have known they were going to be here because we did.
Even a tease.
And like,
even a tease. Yeah.
even then, like, if you don't want to show me a single bit of footage that shows the three of them, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
I just don't think we needed to be this secretive about it, because it wasn't that big of a deal. We all knew they were in it.
Yeah.
We had no idea to what extent, and that's fine. Like, we didn't need to know all the details of how they were in it. But you put these actors, and I specifically, like, I feel so bad for Andrew Garfield, because he was doing press rounds for Tick Tick Boom.
Yep.
He'd recently lost his mom and had to talk about how he was relating the performance in Tick Tick Boom to that emotion, while people are going,
Spider-Man!
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man!
And like, there's no reason that the studio should have put them through this.
Yeah.
Specifically him, but like, that is so shitty, and we just didn't need to be there. And I wish that they wouldn't feel so absolute that they had to keep their secrets to that level. I think the fan event was the thing that pushed it too far.
Yeah.
Like creating that fervor around it.
They
should've-
themselves made a big deal
They
about
should
it.
have said it then. They should have just said they're in this movie.
Yeah.
And called it a day. And like, fine, don't answer any other questions past that. But like, let them be able to just say they're in it and that they're excited for people to see it. And
Absolutely.
call it a day.
Yeah.
We don't need to be this kind of way about press and secrecy. And like, shame on all of the press junkets. Every single person that went into these interviews and kept harassing them,
Clickbait, baby.
like you are going to be the person that's going to get them to talk.
100%.
Like,
yeah.
they're clearly not. Until the studio makes a formal announcement, it ain't going to happen. So leave them alone. This is what drove Emily Blunt to say, I will never be in Fantastic Four now. So
Yeah.
like, leave these actors alone. Let them, good Lord. And
Yeah.
studios just,
And you know what?
stop being
The movie
secretive.
would have made just as much money
It
otherwise.
would have made just
Oh,
as
yeah.
much
Yeah.
money.
Although-
Nobody was fooled.
Yeah. Although, like, obviously we are in the nerd circle. There's definitely people who watched this movie in both of the theaters who didn't know these people were coming, which is
100%.
cool.
But those same people might not have known just if it was a press announcement rather than like a trailer.
No, yeah, this is a similar thought but unrelated to yours. I'm just thinking about specifically our theater, Ben, because our theater in relation was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
To your theater, we saw it in like on like Saturday at like 2 o'clock, whatever. So it was pretty quiet except for the big moments. There was one girl in the back who screamed louder than I've ever heard anyone scream for Andrew Garfield. She's a super fan and she didn't know about it. And I'm like, oh, this is so powerful.
I still, in that case, I always go back to like when I went to see The Winter Soldier, and when Bucky's like face mask comes off, and someone goes like,
no way,
and like someone in the back of every theater I went to was like,
yeah,
God. So real quickly, Marty is in the chat.
Marty.
You guys talking about it, and I am crying.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh,
so I saw. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And Mag wants to talk about the Spider-Man theme, which yes, I love. Michael Giacchino is so good at bringing back themes that are relevant.
I keep checking Spotify for when they're going to release the full album, so I can listen to the triple mix of all the themes. I'm like, I want it so bad. It's so good.
Yeah, I really love this movie.
This is the best. Go ahead.
Everything about this movie is just so good.
The score, like the Giacchino score, like this is the Spider-Man theme has always been great, right? But like they gave it like this operatic, like endgame level like chant to it, like especially during the end credit sequence when it's just the music. It is so good,
right?
And I'm like, man, Giacchino has this and the Batman coming out in a year apart. I'm like,
so excited about
he's next level shit. Like he's the new
Thor
John
4.
Williams, baby.
He's doing Thor 4.
Oh my god,
so good.
Too much.
So in the Statue of Liberty fight, how did you guys feel about Doc Ock pretending to attack the Spider-Man?
I liked it.
I knew it was a fake out.
I did too, and that's kind of why I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's fine because I think he needed to do that to trick Electro.
Yeah.
I don't think it's executed 100% like.
Yeah, I don't too either. I'm like, there's a beat missing here, and maybe it's just his absence up to this point in the film where I'm like, something weird.
Yeah,
here.
it is. It did feel a little. I agree with you. It felt a little off. Yeah.
But boy, seeing those arms again was really exciting.
I love the way they find their moments for the conversations between them, Max and Peter, Otto and Peter.
Oh my God! You know what? Two of my favorite things happened with Peter 3 and Electro. Hey Max, I missed you, man. How you been?
Oh my God, Max and him talking, and he's like, you're a young kid, you're helping poor people.
That was the other one.
I thought you were black.
And you were from Queens.
Oh, I'm sorry,
and
man.
Andrew Garfield is like legitimately he plays it like, oh, I'm really sorry, man.
Okay.
Like really sorry.
Just begs the question: if Electro doesn't know his identity, why is he here? I don't care. It really doesn't bother me.
Like for the same reason, like Eddie Brock shouldn't be in.
Yeah. Yeah, Electro's so fun. Even again, the lizard briefly being there, like so much more fun than his previous appearance. Like
Peter Parker.
So this is real fun. Good time. And the ending. Let's talk about. I adore this bittersweet ending. Again, like if this was the end of the Spider-Man, like of course I don't want it to be. Like I want Tom Holland forever. I love the guy.
It's not in the news, but like real quickly, I think we should mention that like Kevin Feige has been very clear. The MCU Spider-Man's future is secure.
Yeah. They are working on Spider-Man 4, whatever.
We will see Tom Holland in the MCU again.
The way I've watched more interviews about this movie, not for any spoiler stuff, just because I love hearing these young actors talk. I think they're so talented. The way Tom Holland's talking about it, like before this announcement that there's a Spider-Man 4, he's very much like, I don't know the future of the movies. Like I really want to be there, but like our story is currently wrapped up, and I would need a really good story to come back because the way that this movie is left off, I just don't know if it's going to be super satisfying to him to re-meet MJ and Ned and redo that relationship again.
That is,
what I mean?
That is a part of like the decision to take Peter Parker out of their lives. I'm like, there's no way there's another Tom Holland Spider-Man movie that doesn't have Zendaya in it.
Yeah.
So like, we got to do this whole weird bit of him. Like, I don't know how I feel about that aftermath of this choice.
Yeah.
But the choice of him to say like, I'm sacrificing all this to fix the problem.
It's powerful. I think it's really
very
strong.
Powerful. Oh, we got like the multiverse split where we see like Doctor Strange's reappearance is really cool. His interactions with them, the way Goblin tricks him and puts the pumpkin bomb back in the thing when he gets it.
Oh my
really
God.
Good. The visualization of the multiverse ripping is really cool. We see all these Spider-Man. We see Kraven, Scorpion, and Rhino are the specific ones that stood out to me. I'm sure there's others in there.
Someone said they've seen a Black Cat, but I can't. I've seen it twice.
I'm gonna throw this one out there because I think it's really stupid. And I think we might get a good laugh. For a long time, I thought what was Scorpion was actually the Liberty Mutual ostrich.
Sure.
And so when I saw that, I saw a Liberty Mutual a trailer for Spider-Man. Like it was just a Spider-Man thing. I was like, oh, that's why they're in the thing because of the Liberty.
and then I said the Scorpion because we saw the tail, and you were like,
oh, that's who I was thinking of. So yeah, I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Doctor
Big rhino
Strange.
head.
Doctor Strange has a moment where because in Doctor Strange's mind, there's no world where he does the spell he was initially going to do.
Right.
He is not willing to do that spell. He's like, I can solve this. I can fix this, and we're all gonna go home. And everything's gonna be fine.
Right.
But Peter is the one who makes the sacrifice because in such a Spider-Man movie, like, what if they just all forget me?
Would that work?
Would that work?
If they all forget Peter Parker, not Spider-Man, but Peter Parker.
Yeah, and he's like, that would work. But then everyone who loves you, and he has that pause that he says, "We." I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
See you around, kid.
Oh.
Call me Steven.
I really, really like Doctor Strange's interaction with Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Really like it. The ending is such a good, like, emotional nail on that.
Yeah.
On that
I
moment.
was shocked that because I heard this movie makes like people cry all over the place, and I got really emotional throughout the whole movie, but I didn't cry until the final moments between MJ and Peter, because they
Right.
are a real
Mhm.
couple and they are selling that. So Zendaya's so good.
She is.
Oh my god.
Don't tell me you love me until you see me again.
Oh, bro, that's why like I it's so bittersweet because like I just don't know if like the next movie would be worth this moment. You know what I mean? Like them
Yeah.
getting back together, like him weirdly knowing their whole relationship and like that kind
It
of
would
thing.
be. I think I would feel. I understand of that. I think it would feel different if maybe like he does like try to talk to. He does tell MJ like, or leave like a letter for MJ
Yeah.
that tells like their history or whatnot.
I'm not against
Um,
it. It's got to be really good.
And so like that could be how this movie ends, and we still get the triumphant moment of this gorgeous suit that I hope they release
Oh my
full
God.
stills of because it's gorgeous.
Bro.
Running through the rooftops at Christmas time.
When he gets into that new apartment, I half expected.
Red!
100%.
I was waiting for it.
I was like, if that, because like when he goes to the apartment, I was like, oh no, is this okay? It's a different one. But then I was like, is it the same guy?
Mr. Dickovich?
Please,
Hell yeah.
please tell me. And then it's like register through the first. I was like, oh man.
I mean, look, it could be.
we don't see him, but you're right. It could be
In
him.
the next movie, Rent?
Rent.
Oh, I'm sorry. The final moment of Doctor Strange doing the spell is really beautiful. It's like when the orchestra is at its most, like,
Yeah.
"Ah!" And I'm like, man, this is a movie. Man, what a good ending.
This is
You got all the villains, like the way they cure Norman, and Norman sits there and like
just sad.
just
Just
sad
like,
and
what
in
have I done?
defeat of
What
what
have I-
he's done.
you
You got Andrew and Toby arms around each other,
You're
like
in
you're in
so
so much
much
pain.
I love
Uh-huh.
that. So one thing
They love each other.
So just
much.
like Ryan, I also love the bittersweet ending of this movie. But I also love is when he's listening to the scanners on his phone. He goes out and you see the sewing machine. But
It's
you
very Peter Parker.
you still don't get a full view of
Yeah,
his
baby.
new
You know what?
suit.
it's very
And
Spider-Man video game.
And I
I'm
love it.
I'm gonna push back because I don't love that we don't see the suit because I desperately want to see that suit.
Yeah, it's a good tease for it. Yeah.
It's a good tease.
It
I'm
is a
gonna-
good
I'm-
tease.
like no joke. Like I really like how this movie. There's not a frame I would change in this movie
Yeah.
personally, but like I would love to see what that suit looks like. I need to see that suit.
There are very good like still frames of it, but again, like you don't see it just full in the open. But
Yeah.
like, man, that's
that
a
in Spider-
Spider-Man suit, baby.
Put that in
Mhm.
Spider-Man 2.
It's so shiny.
yeah.
I don't know why. I just love how shiny it is.
Yeah.
And like
it's used
having that
spandex.
texture, I've railed against the MCU's use of Spider-Man CGI for a long time. I
Yeah.
don't really like how they CGI that entire suit. Having a different texture to play with that doesn't look like felt is going to give the CG such a pop. I can't wait to see that in the
Yeah.
future.
So I had a theory that I was talking with Megan about, that part of the reason why Peter's in the position he's in is that we can technically now have like a CGI Spider-Man appearance where nobody needs to see Peter Parker's face. So maybe if Tom Holland needs a bit more of a break and we want a small Spider-Man appearance in a movie,
Just
it
to
can
the
all just
voice.
be CGI with his voice. Yeah.
And it looks better. Yeah.
And we no longer need to always call Tom to come up here because like there'd be no reason for anyone to see Peter's face in this scene or whatever. And I wonder if that's maybe part of the setup of this.
Sony has I realized with Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2, both movies, all of Sony Spider-Man movies try to come out every 2 years. And I think going forward, they should probably let that go.
Tom
I think it needs
Holland
to be closer to 3.
Tom Holland himself, he's like, I need to take a break. So I would hope that they give him the break.
If they,
Yeah.
but like between movies, like a new Spider-Man happens when the MCU phase is ready for it.
Yeah.
Not when Sony is like, we want a new Spider-Man movie on this date, and Kevin Feige has to refinangle the whole MCU to figure out where to put the Spider-Man movie.
I have to imagine that we will get another Spider-Man, but they might take like a year off.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, something closer to 3 years from now.
Again, so like this ending, it's Spider-Man doing the radio thing. It's like He doesn't have anyone knows who he is. He's just being Spider-Man. J. Jonah Jameson is like, he's a menace. It's like, it's just, oh my God, this is the longest origin story of all time for a character.
He
but
runs into the Hawkeye TV series.
He does. He runs right into it.
Yeah, right into that. Also, yeah.
I know we mentioned this earlier, but I also love how when you see Jameson the first time when you just see a rinky-dink apartment.
His progression, his character progression,
and then it goes like straight into like he has a news van, he has a studio now. I was like,
was that a dinosaur?
Damn, all right.
They meet for like the first time and they just lock eyes like, oh, now I got you.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is the history born.
I have a question. I really like Jameson. I like Jameson's involvement. I liked his appearance with Far From Home and everything. It's a little strange having Jameson's vendetta against Spider-Man be knowingly specifically against a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I accept it because like we're doing what we're doing with this movie.
I mean, that's
whatever. Like it's
that's
the
the
whole
comics
thing.
for a while.
But
too,
like, but like, well, he's not usually knowing Peter Parker as a teenager.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
That's what I mean.
That's
It's
why
like,
it's the shitty Alex Jones who actually goes after
yes,
people.
right,
thing.
exactly, yeah. And I think that's all right.
It makes his character a lot more slimy though.
Yeah, it
100%.
does. Yeah.
No.
This is not a Jameson who can be like, I have opinions about Spider-Man and it's about Spider-Man specifically. It's like, no, like this is a 17-year-old kid who you're ruining.
This is definitely Spider-Man, where it's
yeah.
like, who's sends a picture? His stuff comes in the mail. This is
Yes,
definitely like
not altruistic Jameson.
This Jameson will sell Peter out no matter what.
Yeah.
In a similar note, one thing that I was like, this is a little strange, but okay, is the SWAT showing up when the apartment is destroyed, and like they know Peter Parker's an underage kid and they're just like, we're just gonna shoot bullets. And I'm like, I mean, like he's a superhero, so like he'll probably be okay, but still, like, damn.
I'm glad you brought that up because there's a moment.
Oh, Happy's moment.
Happy. Going through these movies again, I really like Jon Favreau's inclusion into these
very good
Spider-Man movies. And this one, he has the moment where he sees Aunt May, the woman he loves, dead.
Yep.
He knows what's up.
And he makes the choice, Peter, run.
Right.
He gets involved immediately. Yeah.
He's like, he gets out of there and he's like, Peter, run.
Bro, I was scared for Happy for a second.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
me too.
I'm like, kill him too.
But of course, when he was talking to Aunt May, I'm like, Happy, no. And then when he drives up, I'm like, Happy, no.
And that's part of the thing is like everybody knows Peter Parker, Spider-Man. They hear Happy yelling, Peter, run, and that they still open fire on this kid is like a little.
Yeah.
It is ruthless in a way that I don't think Damage Control would be,
right,
unless they're specifically trying to paint them as villains, which they're not.
So
you're
on the same level as me where I'm like, I understand like them saying the thing is the fact that they actually take shots and that they hit him and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, that's maybe
it is
a step too far and a little strange to me.
I do agree
in
with
this
that.
film.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, not to defend their actions, but,
no, yeah,
but like they're going up, they see Aunt May dead, they see Peter, they're like, oh,
I don't
shit,
think they do. I don't think they do.
You don't think they do?
Right. I don't think necessarily that they can see that far in because
okay.
I think again contextually, a group that knows who Peter Parker is, let alone Damage Control, who knows they've had May Parker in, sees his Aunt May dead, not necessarily going to open fire on that kid. So I don't think they see her because she's in the rubble.
Yeah, they wouldn't shoot it. I don't think.
I think Happy gets the context because he can see Peter crying.
Yeah.
But I don't think Damage Control sees it.
Even you hear Peter yell for help to call an ambulance, and then of course they
they
still take the guns out and start shooting at here. I do think that's a little strange, but other than that,
it's a beat that didn't work for me. It's like a very small beat, so it doesn't matter. But it's a beat that didn't work for me.
Yeah, I think it mostly works for the emotional resonance of the scene. What the emotion of the scene is supposed to be saying, and less so about the logic of the scene.
I think they just didn't need to shoot. I think the threat to shoot is fine, but like the fact that they actually open fire is the part that makes me go, don't like that.
But Happy's moment is really great.
100%.
I would say that maybe them. I mean, yeah, I don't agree with them shooting, but maybe it's also to like drill into the audience that all of New York is against Peter.
Sure.
They don't kill a teenager.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want. We're too,
too
far.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly to the they were focusing on the emotional moments of the scene, how the emotion is supposed to ratchet up into tension, and less so about the logic of the scene. But
sometimes logic's important.
What do we want to go to next?
Well, you brought up Happy. Why don't we talk about Happy at May's grave?
So I already forgot that the world forgot Peter Parker knew people who knew who he was. So I'm like, how'd you know? I'm like, what? He knows who. Oh, it hit me again.
There was a moment where I saw the moment. I was like, maybe Strange made Happy remember.
Yeah,
maybe Happy remembers.
I forgot that way.
Just one person remembers, and then of course I'm like, say, come on. How'd you know her? Damn it!
Because
Yeah.
everyone talks about like Tony Stark's inclusion in these films, and they're like, but nobody talks about Happy's inclusion in these films. And
Happy's
I think Happy's really great in these movies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that moment it's like, how'd you know her? Through Spider-Man, and he's looking at
yeah,
this
me
kid
too.
that he's like, he's honestly been more of a father figure to this kid than Tony Stark was,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
it's such a good
Almost a stepdad.
it's such a good scene. I really like.
I would have got a
Happy
bingo if you
in this
married her.
movie.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, Happy.
Yeah.
Man, what a
Yeah,
solid
feel the emotions.
It's the first-
MCU not wanting to commit any dates onto film.
digital flowers.
Digital flower, cover that date.
God,
Super noticed they were digital this time.
just do 2024, man. Just
Yeah.
say it and be
Just
done.
say it. Don't forget, we
Well,
got
they're probably in panic mode because Hawkeye also had a similar thing where there was production video that said 2025. They digitally covered the 25.
Oh yeah.
That's so funny.
Good job, Hawkeye.
Of all like this is without a doubt my favorite thing the MCU's done this year. It's definitely
Oh,
it's
sure.
definitely
Yeah.
one of my favorite MCU things by far. Like
This is my favorite of Phase 4.
I
Yeah.
can't.
Easy,
I
yeah.
honestly can't say exactly where it's going to land amongst Spider-Man films, MCU films. I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to watch it again, and then maybe I'll have a clearer picture. I know it's up there. I just don't necessarily know. Exactly
no, I got you. Yeah, I am thrilled.
Because I'm writing too much of the premiere high, and now
Yeah.
I got to be like, okay, but how do I feel about it outside of all
Yeah.
those things? Like
Yeah.
like what you did. I need to see it.
I watched it as a movie, and it's a friggin' good movie. yeah.
Okay. Should we rate it then?
Hell's yeah.
Venom.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
Venom.
God, I want to talk
Oh
about.
God!
So
Venom.
I
I
lo-
thought you were making a joke.
I love this. I love it. I love the scene. I
Okay,
think it's so stupid.
so here's my thing. I really thought and wanted. I'll say wanted. I wanted when they're in the midst of the Statue of Liberty thing for Venom to just come crashing into that chaotic energy of it. Like
I'm looking for Spider-Man. Which one?
Because Toby brought up like I fought a black alien goo thing, and like
Yeah.
he sees Venom and he's like, "That's the thing!" And like just
Yeah.
the panicked energy, Tom Hardy, like that chaos before Norman arrived. I kind of wanted.
Yeah.
And I do lament that we don't get that. I think it does make the Venom Let There Be Carnage post-credit scene like a little bit of a whiff for people who really wanted that. I agree. I think this was still the perfect moment for Venom to be inspired by Spider-Man,
Yeah.
let alone being
Sure.
inspired by 3 and putting the white spider on when he goes back to his universe. I think that opportunity it's a great film regardless of not having that. So like I can't say like, oh, like that might have hurt the movie. Who knows? I just do think that would have been hilariously great energy to have thrown into that mix.
I'm with you. I just don't know where you put it in that third
For
act.
sure.
As far
Like,
as
yeah.
as far as a scene goes, I like the scene. I think it's really funny. And I think everything is played really well. I think, like I said, the dialogue in this film is really well written. The only thing it's the only thing I rub up against though, because it's not important to the movie. It's only important to a movie that came out a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And if you take out that post-credit scene in Venom, you don't need this post-credit scene.
Yeah.
There's nothing. They just kind of, it doesn't really work for either film. It doesn't enhance either movie. It just kind of sits there.
So
as
for-
this
okay,
weird,
hold on.
like leftover from Venom Let There Be Carnage.
Sure. Yeah, for me, at the post-credit scene of Venom Let There Be Carnage, I thought, oh shit, this is how we get Venom in the MCU. And
Everyone
Hey,
did.
you're not wrong.
I was
actually.
hoping for that, and then I'm not gonna lie, I will say I was a little bummed out. It's funny, don't get me wrong, but when he's like, but when Tom Hardy goes back to his own universe, and then Venom's like, no, we just got here. I was like, he could have stayed.
Nope. That's why
No, he can't stay.
that's why I love it. That's why I absolutely love it.
But
we
the goop does.
Yeah,
stay.
we
so-
get part of the symbiote
Because
staying,
like he's been here for who knows how long, just trying to figure out the rules
Probably
of
a
this
couple
world.
days.
A couple days, he's just at this bar. He's like, all right, cool. I understand the fundamentals of this world. I am ready to enter it. Oh shit! Here I go back.
Yeah.
Like it is almost like making fun of the audience who wants that to happen, and I
It's a-
love it.
It's a solid scene, and I enjoy watching it.
I
Just rub up against. It's the
No, it's
only
fair.
thing in this movie that
So,
I rub up against.
again, tell me about the guy with the stones.
I
the
want
tin suit.
Eddie rambling down the street in Venom 3, like, okay, but Thanos.
We gotta
with
worry
the
about
stones?
this and this.
Is there
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanos?
See, this is a best case scenario for me because like, do I necessarily want like after seeing Venom 2, I do want like I would love for Ed Hardy Ed Hardy
Tom
Hardy. Ed Hardy's a fashion guy. Tom Hardy to meet our Spider-Man, right? But like now we have a way of like doing what the comics do. You get a piece of the symbiote, he develops its own. Maybe we get our own Venom now, so there could be two different ones. Then they can meet up, do a stupid Venomverse thing. There are so many possibilities. Like I love that. Like we're not tied to Ed Hardy Venom.
Tom
No, I
Hardy.
know. I'm joking.
We're not tied to a.
We're not
specific
tied to.
path.
We can now do our own original Venom that's not tied to anything else. Do our own story, and I think
Venom
that's
can have its
perfect.
own Spider-Man because the audience is ready for a different Spider-Man.
Yes. Or do the thing everyone wants and just make one of the other two guys meet him or something. Like
Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
100%. Like the
It
possibilities
still-
there. I think
it
this is
still
a
leaves
good.
it still leaves Morbius in an interesting position.
We'll deal with that later.
I
Yeah,
can't think
seriously.
about Morbius right now because I thought the movie.
I think Morbius is the definition of Sony doesn't know or care what the crap they're doing
Yeah.
there.
I really thought this movie was going to end with like a bunch of the spider dimensions like merging together, and that's how Morbius had all of this stuff in his movie.
Right.
That's not the case.
Yeah.
So I truly don't know what's going on with Morbius.
Morbius definitely doesn't take place in the MCU, regardless of Toomes being in it, because there's an Oscorp building.
Yeah.
And
That's from
Oscorp
The
doesn't
Amazing.
exist.
yeah.
Well, it's not the building from the Amazing Spider-Man, but it's the same font.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So let's go back to trailer talk for a second.
Oh.
Because at the end of this movie was a trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse
Oh,
of
that's
true.
Madness.
yeah,
the first
yeah, yeah.
teaser.
Real quick before we move on, how do you guys feel about, like, do you want Black Suit Spider-Man and Venom?
Yes.
Do you want it in Spider-Man 4?
No.
Well, I don't know.
don't
Do you want
know.
that to be the next thing this Tom Holland Spider-Man does? Because me personally, like, I'm down with MCU Venom. It's not necessarily the next thing I want.
I don't want MCU Venom right away because that's once again that's Sony coming or
I-
pulling the same thing. that
Yeah.
they did
Ryan knows
in
what
this-
I want. What I want is I want Spider-Man back to, like, now that we are here, I want
Friendly
basic
neighborhood.
Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood, New York City. I'm gonna fight crime
Kingpin.
Spider-Man,
Yeah,
but he wants to fight the big man, so he fights the Kingpin.
yeah.
And you get Daredevil in being
That's
like,
the dream.
kid, you ain't ready
Okay.
for it.
That's the
I
dream.
want that too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I want Scorpion.
Sure, and I mean that could be
Jameson-
part of it because he can hire Scorpion.
Yeah, Jameson
need-
could do the thing where he hires Scorpion in the comics. Yeah.
We need to. I think Sony still wants an MCU Sinister Six. We've got.
I
3
am
of them.
shocked this movie didn't go for it.
Yeah, same.
Actually, one of my bingo things was they name dropped Sinister Six.
Yeah.
I thought this
I'm
film.
shocked there was no sixth Sinister villain.
I thought this film. I personally thought this film at the end would set up, like Toomes saying, "Oh, we need 6 people
I'm
instead
glad.
of 5." or
I'm
something like
glad
that.
they didn't shoehorn
me
it
too.
at all.
Me too.
Again, like
I think having both the MCU Spider-Man villains in this film would have actually hurt this film.
Yeah.
But there is a thing that I think that Sony still wants to do a Sinister Six within the MCU because they have introduced three of the villains, and I think that they're gonna want to introduce the next
4
3.
if you want to count Shocker.
No, it's 3 if Shocker,
No,
Toomes, Shocker,
Scorpion, Mysterio.
Scorpion, Mysterio. You're right. I always forget about Scorpion because he doesn't suit up in the movie.
Right.
So yeah, they got 4, so they just need 2 more.
And those are low level dudes. Like you get the Rhino, you get Craven, and you could call it a day.
I think
Yeah.
Craven and Rhino are next. Yeah.
those are the originals. Yeah.
And then you could call it a day there and like do those guys.
Anyway, Doctor Strange.
Paul Giamatti is Rhino.
But yeah,
I am
I
the
just kind of wanted to
Rhino.
get your guys' vibes. Like, I don't really want Black Suit Spider-Man to be the next
Not
Spider-Man.
next.
Now that we
Yeah.
put him in this position, I'm like, I want a movie about this Spider-Man that's not about him also dealing with the Black Suit.
Yeah, I don't want this
eventually-
next.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Next,
Yeah, sure.
No.
Someone can pick up that goopy studying it. Peter eventually comes across it. Like, whatever.
So there's a trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness at the end of this movie.
Hell's yeah, there is.
Hey guys, Sam Raimi is back doing Dutch angles.
Sam Raimi is such a good filmmaker. I think this movie looks awesome.
I love that America Chavez is shown because I'm like 90% of people watching this don't know who that is.
That's
Right.
She's about to get a huge fan base. Absolutely.
And we
Punching
al-
reality holes.
and of course we get the big reveal. We get Doctor Strange.
So when we talked about what if I was like, if there's one character who's going to show up, in live action, it's probably this guy, right? And then like he does show up. That's so cool. That's so crazy.
I am not sure if he is the guy from What If.
I
I
also don't
understand
think
like
he's the
that
guy
there
from
would
What
be
If.
that connection, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know where that lines up, only because of this being where we left him in What If,
Yeah.
with his world bubbling down, with
And he now
him
has the,
protecting the thing from the Watcher. So I'm like, is this going to be the same dude, or is this just going to be a variant? Another
I
dude?
just don't see them not doing synergy.
I
That's just
I hear
yeah.
you. I'm just
Ralph
this is
Bohner.
me.
Yeah.
Openly not sure.
No, that's fair. I just
He
Little-
doesn't have the exact same look.
No.
That's part of
That's
it.
true.
No.
But Doctor Strange does get a new look in this movie. He's got a new costume. He's his first new costume in the MCU.
bad wig, y'all. It's
He's
a bad
got
wig.
the Eye of Agamotto again.
Yeah,
Oh, he does have that.
it's a bad wig.
He's got. I always find it so interesting because all the MCU characters get new costumes every time they show up, but Doctor Strange has been in the same costume since his first movie.
2016.
Because they did it
Yeah.
right the first time, and they
And
don't
but-
need to change it.
But now they changed it just like slightly. He's got a little bit more blue on his.
It's,
on
it's
his
a little
thing.
brighter. Yeah. Yo, man. So like,
Shumagorath.
Shumagorath. So that's why I'm pretty sure it's Doctor Strange, because all the stuff that's happening in What If is spinning out into this show. And now that we've seen in this movie, and now that we've seen Shumagorath, all those rumors about a bunch of other characters showing up, probably true.
Well, so interestingly, like there was a recent report that was saying like a lot of the reshoots were done because they wanted to do more cameos, more character appearances to have more fun, like No Way Home did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
It's just
I'm very excited for this. This look made me very excited for this movie. No matter what we're talking about, like the way this movie looks is so unique. It's honestly a lot brighter than other MCU movies. So it's
brighter and darker.
They got a different colorist, I guess.
Brighter while being dark.
Yeah, I mean, like the evils look like super evil and the bright. Yeah.
I really like all the costume changes for like Baramordo.
Long hair time.
There's so much in this trailer that like I was excited for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now I'm very excited for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Like, I'm in a place where we talked about the MCU prior to this when we were talking about Hawkeye. Like I was in a place where I was like, a lot of this stuff is just not doing it for me in the way that it used to. And I wondered, like, now post No Way Home and seeing the Doctor Strange trailer, like I'm like, hell yeah, give me this.
This was just an unfortunate kind of like a rough year. I mean, I think we've all liked the stuff that's come out, but like it hasn't been like a home run. And now Spider-Man's out, and like, oh shit, they're still capable of doing this, which is really nice. Which is really nice.
Should I rate it?
Real quick, I did want to say, like, I think there's been some comparison talk, not much, some comparison talk to like Marvel getting that big jab at the multiverse. Hey guys, DC did it first. They had Crisis on Infinite Earths, and that being talked about. And and the only reason I want to bring that up is because I think why this is so much more important than that isn't just because it's like, oh, a movie and that was on the TV. It's these multiverse crossovers felt like they meant something, that they had something to say about the characters, that they were moving something forward. Crisis on Infinite Earths, while enjoyable, most of its cameo appearances, I think with the exception of one I can think of, which is Brandon Routh's, isn't saying something about that character picking up with them at a later point in time.
What does the crossover of the two Flashes meeting actually do for that story? Absolutely nothing.
Right.
They just meet.
It's
Look,
just
it's
cool.
a movie guy.
Exactly.
There's
and
no story.
That's the kind of things we were afraid this movie would have.
100%.
And it doesn't. And that's why like that's such an incredible hit.
It's somebody compared it to like, wow, this is a good version of Rise of Skywalker.
This is what you need those multiverse choices to be. The best use of Palpatine, more
The best
emotional
use
use
of
of Palpatine than Rise of Skywalker.
I did also. I think you made a good point. Like if this film is to be compared to Crisis, I don't think it should be.
More
Brandon Routh and Kevin Conroy have the type of moments and emotional weight and that show that would be the equivalent of what we see in this movie.
Yeah, and like I think that you're looking down the barrel of I think DC staring at like Flashpoint and a lot of other them wanting to play with the multiverse because that's their big play right now.
Yeah.
And I hope they take lessons from this because those cameos are cool, but if they don't mean anything, they're forgettable.
Yeah.
Like it's cool to see them on screen, but it has to be more than that. And that's why the whole thing, like what I was saying earlier, like we could have known Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
This movie still would have popped off like crazy because it was more substantial than the fact that they were there. It was much more than just they show up.
Right.
True.
Now, show
one last thing.
Yeah.
I, for one, am happy that they didn't try to shove Miles into this.
Me too.
This
100%.
went around a lot where like people have mixed feelings about that. I'm like, this was not the movie to shove Miles in.
Yeah, a lot of
I'm
people.
glad that he didn't. Like people were like just a last minute like whip in at that Statue of Liberty fight. And I'm like, no, baby,
Yeah,
no,
I
not time.
I'm so glad because like I have seen a lot of people online like disappointed that the movie wasn't as bigger, and I'm like, y'all are missing the point. This movie is so much more emotional that it needs to be big. If you want big,
100%.
watch Endgame. Like
this movie. I'll compare it to Endgame. Honestly, I think this movie and Endgame have a very similar structure. No, that's wrong. I think both films are paced very well, and I think both films don't collapse under the weight of what they're trying to do. And I think No Way Home is probably a better example of it, in the sense that like No Way Home knew exactly what it needed to do, and it knew exactly how it needed to do it, and it did it. And I think that's where like Endgame, we know, was put together like, they were putting the movie together as they were filming. This movie set out with like, we need to hit this beat with this character, we need to do this, and they knew exactly what they needed to do, and they executed it very well.
I agree.
Yeah.
Rate it.
I want to say, I don't like going first. I want to say something inside me wants to say 10.
say it.
And I think I'm gonna.
Say
I
it.
think it's a 10 out of 10.
Say it.
think it's a 10 out of 10. I love this movie. This movie is this movie's perfect. I wouldn't change a frame. I love it.
I would also give it a 10 out of 10. I think it's such a strong example of what a Spider-Man movie can be while still being big and fun while keeping the emotions behind it. Like, it's definitely, I was so worried that like my favorite superhero movie of the year wasn't going to be a Marvel movie. Not that like that matters, but like I just really love Marvel and I know what they're capable of, and like they can still do it. And this movie is such a triumph and such a celebration of Spider-Man. I love it. 10 out of 10.
I can't remember the last time where I just was itching, constantly itching, trying to figure out ways to go see a movie immediately after I saw it the first time. This movie is a 10 out of 10. It is so fun. It is such a great time. And I mean, we've been talking about it for the past, like, what, 2 hours or something?
I texted Sparks. Do you think there's any possible way that we could see Spider-Man No Way Home tomorrow before we record?
Funny enough,
funny.
I've talked to Fanny was talking to me, and I told her that if by some miracle we're done with all of our recordings today at a decent time, I'm taking her to see it. I'm pretty sure there's 11 o'clock showing somewhere.
It's 11
Man.
o'clock somewhere.
2 weeks.
But you know what? Yeah, 10 out of 10 film. Fantastic, amazing, spectacular, all the freaking all the jokes, all the
Sparkles.
things.
I really want to see it a second time because it's very hard for me to, I think, remove. My whole thing is that is the movie itself 10 out of 10, or is the experience of it as a culmination of not just the MCU Spider-Man, but the previous Spider-Mans making it 10 out of 10. And I
Why
have a
not
hard
both?
time with films where they're too dependent upon previous releases.
That's why
Because I haven't seen it a second time. It's hard for me to weigh that, where I was like kind of leaning 9.5.
Go with your gut.
But out of a sense of very likely believing this to be the case and synergy, I'm going to say 10 out of 10.
Yay,
Or-
they did it.
Tens
tens.
across the. Is this the first movie that we gave a perfect
It's
40?
probably been a while. I'm sure we've
Endgame?
Pretty sure we gave Into the Spider-Verse 10 out of 10 across the board.
probably.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think probably Endgame.
No,
Ooh,
we
you know
definitely
what?
did not.
It would have been all 10s out of 10 for Bill and Ted, but Ben didn't give it a 10.
Because
That's right.
It would have been.
It
Yeah,
would've
no,
been.
but Ben didn't love Bill and Ted enough.
I still like Bill.
I'm just giving you shit.
I know, but we all gave 10 out of 10, and you did. I remember
Man,
that
what
now.
a good movie. Crazy.
Damn.
That's a good movie.
Great movie. Yeah, I will say, like, I don't think it serves anything to like really do deep comparisons, but like Endgame still has like a major flaw, at least one major flaw to me that No Way Home definitely doesn't in presentation. So that puts it higher for me. Because I remember not giving Endgame a 10 out of 10. Close. Real close.
Mag says Queen Sweep.
Queen sweep.
Queens.
Clean sweep.
So
Queen.
yeah,
did
all
it.
10 out of 10s. 40 out of 40 for Spider-Man No Way Home.
Ooh, baby.
Shall we get into our book club?
If you want to see it again, I might see it a third time.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely.
I'm trying.
It's gonna be soon.
Book club.
Can we see it before 2 weeks?